can't see myself struggling to write more werewolf stuff. It's like, it just, that death metal is fucking in my bones. So it's there. Like, it'll happen. I'm not even worried about it. But if I'm trying to write something, like, I'll set aside time and I'll do it. And if it's not happening after half an hour, then maybe I'll stop. And then the next day I'll come back for another half an hour and bang, something will work. So it doesn't always work, but there's what's that saying? It's like, you can wait for inspiration or you can just make it happen. You can sit around forever waiting for inspiration. But if you just get there and do some work, then pretty soon something will happen.
Perspiration beats inspiration.
Yeah, 100%.
Greetings, Legion. Welcome to episode 235 of Into the Necrosphere. On this week's installment of the podcast, I'm welcoming back to the show my good friends Matt Wilcock and Sam Bean of the band Werewolves. They have a brand new album out called Die For Us. We spoke about that record. We spoke about the Antichrist Imperium. We spoke about the events leading up to the almost biblical inspiration to include a sample by yours truly on the new record. We also spoke about our love of old school gangster rap. We spoke about the glory days of MMA and much, much more. It's 2 hours of straight man talk coming your way, and it'll be with you in the next couple of minutes. But before we get to that, we have us another premiere on the Sphere. This week, we are listening to a brand new track by Drugoth, a project that you should all be intimately familiar with. Drugoth is about to release a split EP alongside his longtime collaborator Shograth. The EP is called We Are Legion, the song Unyielding Severity. Another premiere on the Sphere, that was Drugoth with a song called Unyielding Severity. It's taken from the forthcoming split EP, We Are Legion, that also features Shograth. I've heard the whole thing. It's absolutely awesome. And as you no doubt picked up from the name of the EP and the just general vibe of the song, it's a bit of a living tribute, that track, to all of you guys. So the best way that you can show your appreciation is to head over to Bandcamp, buy yourself some music, buy yourself some merch, and show Drugoth or show him some of the love that he has shown you. If you are new to the podcast, my friends, you may not be aware, but you are about to find out that I am a member of an elite unit of content creators joined in one mission, and that is to eradicate mediocrity wherever we find it. We're known as the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse, and we kick off your Monday with another installment of Horrible 666, courtesy of the great Brandon Legion. On a Tuesday, yours truly casts hexes and slays poses on Into the Necrosphere. Next week, I'm talking to Robin Harris of Wormwitch in a episode that was really surprisingly personal for both of us, I think, but one that I'm sure you're all going to find very enjoyable and very insightful indeed. A week after, I've got something really special coming your way too. Have not recorded that yet, but when it's done, I'm pretty sure that the Legion is going to be very, very excited indeed. I will confirm it when it's done on the socials, so if you don't follow me on the socials yet, head over to Instagram, Facebook, or X, and make sure you change that. On a Wednesday, we've got Sensei Mike Hill bringing you an episode of Everything Went Black. We also double up your pleasure every other Wednesday when Cheyenne of the band Trivax brings you another episode of Iblis Manifestations. I know I said a couple of weeks ago that he and I were due to record something new. I did actually have him and his lovely partner visiting us a couple of weeks ago, but we didn't get around to recording an episode. We are going to do something in the next couple of months, though. He's got a few things in the pipeline, so we want to make sure that we release an episode that goes in tandem with that. But it was great seeing him, if in case you were wondering. On a Thursday, we have Mike Hill returning for Necromaniacs alongside his co-hosts Sheriff Mike Scandato and Professor Jeff Kashid. That is one of my favorite podcasts of the week. It's the one that I always make sure I listen to. They review new and old horror movies, and it's always super insightful, super entertaining. They're going to be talking almost certainly in the next few weeks about the new movie Longlegs, starring Nicolas Cage. A lot of hype around that. I've got some of my own thoughts about it. I saw it just over a week ago. I might share a bit of that on this week's news rant if you stick around until the end of the episode. We also have, just closing off the Horseman lineup, the Sinister Minister Carl Hikara, bringing you another journey through the dark, the weird, the arcane, and the esoteric every Thursday and every Sunday with his podcast, Soul Knox. He had the great Naz Alchemeth of Ecclese on the show not too long ago, going through a track-by-track breakdown of the fantastic new Ecclese record. No doubt a lot of folks logged into Reddit for the duration of that episode, ready to point out anything that they disagree with, while screaming, pulling their blue hair, and crying, clutching their pearls and whatnot. There was a fair bit of that last week when the folks over at Reaper Agency announced that Ecclese was going to be on the Fortress Festival lineup in 2025, and then, not to be outdone, the American wing were sobbing in mass over the fact that Hell's Euros announced Apsu would be on the lineup for 2025. But we'll talk a bit about that meltdown as well as my experience of attending a secret Destroyer 666 gig, and we'll also listen to some new music by the likes of Winterfylleth, Trelldom, and many others on the news rant later on. Before I welcome Matt and Sam back to the podcast, just one quick thing. You might have picked it up in the intro, but there was a bit of a rustle coming from Matt's microphone. I don't quite know what it was. I did try my best to reduce the noise, but apologies if it's a bit grating. I personally didn't find it too distracting, but I know some of you folk tend to be more sensitive than others. If you are too sensitive, though, you might want to sit this one out, because when these two guys join, it's man talk and nothing but. So welcome back to the podcast for, I think, a record-setting 7th or 8th time in Matt's case. it almost certainly won't be the last time. This is Matt Wilcock and Sam Bean of Werewolves. Because whenever you and I talk, something strange and or catastrophic almost always either precedes or happens like several days after. Did you see last night?
Take your pick.
That Biden introduced Zelensky as President Putin at the NATO, I think some NATO convention, and also referred to Kamala Harris as Vice President Trump.
Oh shit!
But I woke up to that this morning, and I was like, "How fucking ironic!" I'm talking to Sam, and yet again something completely fucking whack happens the night before.
Yeah, I missed that. I'm still sort of like, spending my time trying to read up on Project 2025 and like the implications of the Supreme Court saying that no action the president takes in an official capacity, which conveniently is not defined, cannot be deemed illegal. So they've retrospectively made Watergate like legal. So I've been sort of like, my head's still like following that. And to be honest, one of the things I've sort of like started doing with the run up to the presidential debate, and I recommend it to everyone, but like no one will take any notice of me, is give any news or anything you see or read a good 24 hours before you sort of like go, oh, that really happened. Deepfake's been a thing for a while and like whatnot. And I reckon we're just going to see an absolute ton of it. Like, we saw that deepfake video where apparently like Zelensky's missus bought a Bugatti. It turns out that was some bullshit spread by an Australian guy who calls himself, the Australian Cossack. No, man, my deepfake, if anything, would be like fucking one of those porn vids where like, the guy has his foot, like he's taking it from behind, has his foot like on the back of her head, and it'd be like Zelensky doing Putin. Yeah. Here he comes. Yes.
Fucking computers, man. It's bullshit. I'm so not a fucking internet computer fucking person. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. A bit early for me to be on the liquor, but
I was going to get pissed up for this. I was like chatting with Matt beforehand, going, "How drunk shall we get for this?" And of course, like Work's contacted me, like going, "Hey, whenever this interview's over, you can jump on and like work through to 6 a.m. tomorrow." Yeah, and I'm like, "Oh, sure." So it's tea
over a weekend as well.
Just say no.
Yeah.
Not my tempo.
I'm not one to say no to money, unfortunately. So there's the prob.
Well, like I said, with that fancy ass TV that you got behind you now, and all the renovations and the upgrading, needs to be financed somehow.
Weekend OT made flesh. Yeah.
Well, I mean, technically this is release day because the album is out on Bandcamp, and I know it's officially coming out on all the streaming, streaming platforms and stuff on July the 19th. But I want to say congratulations, and also I've yet to see a contract that is going to start paying me the royalties that are owed to me. Let's be frank, for that incredibly powerful, emotive, landmark sample that you used at the end of the first track.
When I saw that whatever episode it was fucking forever ago now. I was watching on YouTube. I usually would just sit at home and watch the show on YouTube when it comes out, and I'm probably just sitting there playing guitar or whatever, and I just heard that and thought, fucking, pause, stop. I listened to it. I'm like, right, I made a fucking note. It's like, right, we're using that without a doubt.
Dude, it was when you sent me the song, it was literally one of the proudest moments of my entire life. And the funny thing is, it's like how many messages I'm getting now of people like, "Oh, I was listening to the new Werewolves," and I'm like, I recognize that voice. For anyone who doesn't know, the band I was referring to actually wasn't Werewolves; it was Cataclysm. Which I do stand by my words. I think they are fucking unlistenable shit. I think one of the let's maybe just start with the label situation with the band, because Matt, I've mentioned this to you a couple of times, but Die For Us, as far as I'm concerned, is probably your strongest album. I mean, I think you guys have progressively gotten better with every record you've put out. But this album to me is not just because of my sample, but just generally speaking, ferocity, aggression, more of that, black metal, sniff that you give some of the songs and some of the riffs. It's a fucking superb record. I was stunned that you guys had taken the decision to put it out independently.
Yeah, there was. I think the reasoning, Sam might have a bit more knowledge about this than me. I know Dave's probably the one that dealt with the label directly, but anyway, I think it came down to it was just finances and the state of the economy. And I don't know whether to read between the lines a little bit with that, because I mean, I know that we sort of skate around the edges of sort of maybe controversial lyrics and just, maybe perhaps saying things that aren't necessarily PC in the current climate. But I mean, if it's a financial thing, we had a busy year last year. The last album came out and it was really well received, and we had done two national tours in Oz, among other things. So we're on a steady incline. So I was a bit surprised that they sort of didn't want to put out the album, and it was kind of at the 11th hour as well, if I remember. But I guess if you compare us to maybe some of the other bands on their roster that are based in the States that are constantly touring, perhaps our sales weren't good enough. But I don't know. I mean, what's your thoughts, Sam? Because I'm not quite sold
pretty sure.
on it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's down to two things. The first one is just the cost of, making vinyl and also CDs. That's just gone up. And we're not a band that waits 3 years. Obviously, it's an album a year. So every year they're having to go through the expense of it, but also the run-up time, the lead time for doing that had blown out quite a bit as well. So they're having to really... it was something that was tricky for them to organise. I also know Prosthetic Shed, like a few other bands, but I think the main thing it came down to was we actually had a good deal. It gave us all the rights to the Australian New Zealand territory. So, when we're flogging CDs and out on tour and doing really well, I imagine if you saw a chart showing an increase of sales, it'd show Australia bumping up. Everywhere else maybe got a little bit, but Australia is where the cream was at. And you were scooping the cream off the top, man. So,
and maybe on a financial sort of note, if they're forking out, they're forking out all production costs, etc., and then other incidentals, be it press or whatever else, as well as the finances regarding us. That's a yearly sort of expense that they, perhaps another band would take 2 or 3 years to churn out an album. So if we're bang, bang, bang each year, they would literally be putting out the last album and then we'd be giving them the next one. And it's oh, great. Perhaps they've got to fork out X amount more money for the next album. And, I think we had a pretty good...
We broke them.
Yeah.
About to say, every year... Dave's on the phone like Joe Pesci on Casino. Fuck you, pay me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a pretty good sort of relationship with them, and they seemed pretty sound. But maybe it was our sales weren't up there with some other bands that are on that roster. And
I think in the States at the moment, we started off being a profitable band in the early days, and then shit got more expensive, but we're still pumping an album out a year, so we turned into maybe a break-even band for them. And just, I don't know, possibly if you're in the States at the moment, it's not good enough to break even, man. You need to be you need to have less bands who are creating less work and making more money for you. So we just create lots of work. So maybe we should be getting signed up directly with a vinyl factory who just sees this as a worthy investment or something like that. I don't know.
You should buy your own vinyl factory. That's where the big bucks are. I mean, honestly, knowing what I know, why Dave hasn't, I'm sure maybe he has considered investing in one, but if I were in his shoes, it's certainly something I would be thinking about doing. Just knowing how big the backlog is to get vinyls pressed up, and I think what you could, you would have a steady stream of business at all times if you had a vinyl pressing plant, even if it's just something small.
I think that a few more have sort of popped up in Australia. We just did a run of with the rock band Shocker Mistress. We did a run of vinyl. However long ago it was now, a few months ago, in preparation for a recent release, and it was reasonably priced. Like I remember the previous album to that, it was very expensive, and that was the problem then, was because of all the fucking bullshit with COVID and the lockdowns and all that crap. You couldn't. It was difficult to get things done overseas, and obviously everything was shut down and fucked up. But yeah, so we got this last one pressed in Oz, and it was reasonably priced. We didn't get a huge run. We got enough for it to be worth it, and it wasn't out of order. So maybe it's becoming a bit more accessible for just the fucking average Joe or whatever.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, the thought also did cross my mind about whether or not Sam's lyrics had got you guys into trouble finally, or maybe they listened to the last Antichrist Imperium album.
But luckily,
I'm not so sure about the sweetest juice anymore.
Luckily, he's fucking smart enough to talk his way out of a bind if there's any complaints.
I like to think, but I don't think we're famous enough to get in trouble with anyone. I think it's like we need an extra zero on the end of all our figures to get our head above the parapet and have someone taking shots at me. But I can guarantee that's not the problem with prosthetic. I chat on email with Steve, the label manager, reasonably regularly, and he's pretty candid. So yeah, I'm pretty sure if I'd said something. I did say shit. That was completely over the line. That he would have told me. And there's been times in the past where I've put stuff forward and it's been nixed. So yeah, it's not. Yeah,
because you guys had. I mean, was it From the Cave to the Grave that you had to change the title?
What a Time to Be Alive, where I wanted to call it hate speech. And I think it might have been a discussion between Dave and the label or whatever, where it was
not so sure about that.
Not a good time for that. It's 1939. Perhaps you shouldn't be calling things like hate speech. It's just,
Well, I'll tell you something. I've always been, because a lot of these bands aren't in any way affiliated with any political movement. They're not NSBM. But I've always thought bands like Canon Fever and bands like that. It's you are kind of flirting with disaster here, because if by calling yourself that and by having the iconography that you have on album covers and stuff like that, you are literally, you're immediately on a watch list. Just as an aside, because I discovered a band recently called Panzerkrieg 666, and the music is fucking badass. But I actually went through it with a fine. I was about to say I went through it with a fine-tooth comb. Is there something sketchy that I'm missing here? Checked out the people from the band and stuff like that. Everything seemed to check out. But I sent it to Carl and I sent it to Marco, and they both sent me almost the exact same response. And they don't really. I don't think they actually know each other. These guys are, I think Marco said something about these guys are very brave, and and Carl said, these guys are looking to get themselves into trouble. But did you guys think about approaching any other labels, or was there interest from other labels when the word got round that you were off prosthetic?
We even try.
we had a bit of a. I think maybe me and Dave at a rehearsal or some shit, we might have talked about it. We sort of toyed with the idea of who we might like to be with, and I won't go into whom. There's a few obvious choices that would be great, but it sort of came down to, I think the two things it came down to. One was, if we were to go with a label, they might not be quite too keen on our sort of yearly album rate.
Yeah,
because I really don't want to compromise that. We're in this fucking zone now of album, and if we signed with label X, and they said, "Oh, well, you know, cool. We're doing an album, but it's like you're not putting the next one out for another 2 or 3 years or whatever." It's like fucking that's the whole premise of this band is sort of gone. So there was that. It's like, well, we could approach so and so, but they probably wouldn't be too keen on a yearly release.
I'm about to say it's going to be that upfront negotiation of
Yeah.
This is core to the premise or the reason why this band was started to begin with. It's not changing, and I mean I can absolutely see where they're coming from, but I mean I absolutely would side with you guys on that. It's also your project. You should be able to do with it.
And the second part was, you know, we're sort of reaching a time in the world where, I mean, I'm aware of a few other sort of bigger bands than us that have done, you know, independent releases. They've released their own albums. And if you can sort out, if you've got somewhat of a name and, you know, you're pretty on with press and you know what you're doing, there's no reason why you can't release something yourself. Obviously, there's the cost of pressing and this and distribution and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, I mean, a prime example of that, again, is a rock band. We did the first album through a fucking shit label that did fuck all for us. And then the second time around, it's like, all right, well, we'll do it ourselves. So we did, and it was nothing but a success, you know. So with Werewolves being sort of maybe a step up from what that is, it's like, obviously there's the expense up front, and, you know, I guess we're still testing the waters. Like, I haven't done too much work behind the scenes. Like, Sam and Dave have done a lot more than I have. My job's just to fucking write death metal riffs. But, you know, if we can make it work, you know, and if it's viable and if it ticks over doing it ourselves, then it's like, well, why wouldn't we? Because we can do whatever we want. We can release an album every fucking 6 months as opposed to every year.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's not like you guys are raking in massive profits, but equally, there's no profit share. There's no, you know, you don't have to pay back royalties or pay back an advance or anything like that. Which I guess is freeing in a way, because again, it also means that, you know, that money can be invested in other stuff. I thought that, you know, I think if people didn't know anything about what was going on in the background, it didn't really feel to me like you guys lost a step. But I would actually go as far as to say, whoever was doing your PR for you on this run, it felt like there was more energy and more momentum behind this record than there's been for the preceding four. And maybe it's just because, you know, you guys are in my social orbit, and I think sometimes what's in your social orbit can be clouded a little bit because, you know, you're just naturally going to come up, you bubble up more. But even if I just take the number of comments or the number of people I had messaging me about Werewolves, you know, people seemed to be really excited for this record, more so than they'd been for any of the others.
Yeah, we were kind of like really conscious not to let things trail off. You know, it would be really easy to. I even said to the guys, like, you know, do we do an announcement that, you know, we're not on prosthetic? And they're like, you know what, let's just try and see how smooth, like, we can keep things traveling. So we managed to do that. The other thing, like, we were really conscious of is, like, with, you know, things. There's no doubt about it, is a little bit of like a hurdle, and we won't know if this is like going it alone as a success for about another, you know, month or so. Such a long time these days. So yeah, we wanted to make sure that like everything that we were doing was kind of like capturing everyone who was already interested in the band. I'm not 100% sure yet if it's like dragged in like extras. But we wanted to make sure that, like, if you were following us or friends with us or, you know, anywhere within our circle, that you're just getting absolutely sprayed with new album. Like, you know, there was the shorts vids that we were, like, pummeling everyone with for a while there. We tried to, like, step up, you know, media appearances and whatnot. But, yeah, it was a real concerted effort to try and, like, lasso who we had and keep a hold of them, less that, you know, one off year, and that's all you really need, like suddenly has you draining people. So that's kind of what we're about.
Yeah. The music videos I thought were really cool as well. I mean, they looked, again, obviously I know you're not going to be plowing thousands of dollars into them, but they looked slick, you know, with the spittle, etc. aside. But again, as I said, I just thought the whole way in which this record cycle was presented, I really liked. I mean, I was always under the impression that Werewolves isn't, from a media engagement perspective, is exclusive to Into the Necrosphere. So, my heart was broken when I saw you guys popping up all over the place. But,
well, your check's in the mail, isn't it?
Yeah. We're so sorry, Jake. We're death metal whores.
Now, I think, Matt, when you and I spoke a while back, we're just getting back to the one album a year concept. The target was 10. How are you feeling about that now that you're at the halfway mark?
I'm feeling good. We've got this. Well, I've got the 6. Yeah, we've got the 6th one written. I think Dave is actually. So Dave's been doing psychroptic drums this week. He's been in the studio every day, and I was like, cool, fucking good luck with that. Hope it, it's pretty full on clever stuff. And he sent me a message. He said, "Oh, can you send all the werewolf shit? Because if I finish it in time, I'll start recording the next one." I'm like, "All right, well, if you after you've battered yourself into submission trying to do all your psycho stuff, if you can, if you've got the heart to keep going and start doing werewolf stuff, then cool." So I haven't asked him about it, but so he may well have done a song or two this week. So number 6 is well on the way, and in my mind, I've got somewhat of a timeline about when I'm going to write the next one. So we'll see what happens, but I think we can do it. It's I don't know. I've had a few messages from people because I think quite a few people in Oz have started to receive their CDs or records or whatever, and I've had a few people sort of email me or fucking messenger me or whatever and say, "Oh, I've got the album. It's I don't know how you're going to top it. It's amazing." I'm like, wow, I don't know. Every time we do something, we just try it and touch wood, it works, and then the next time we try something else. But I am quite excited about album 6. Like the material is pretty cool, Like I listened back to it not so long ago, and it's like fucking, where the fuck did that come from? I opened the fucking 7th gate to hell and taken all the riffs out and fucking compiled them. It's going to be good, so we'll see. But 10 will happen.
Album 5 kind of felt a little bit like the hump sort of album, like Wednesday's hump day. Album 5's our hump album, so like it felt like this has been a harder one to squeeze out, like not just because of the whole self-release thing, but like for me musically, like most of the other albums, I knew as soon as I heard the music, I was like, all right, I know exactly what we're going to do with this. With this one, there was a few like, I don't know, different things or curveballs, and I was just like, I don't know, I'll just try something. Hopefully it'll work. But defo with the album 6 demos that we've got sitting there, I'm kind of like, I'm trying to pimp out album 5 and go, yeah, it's fucking really good. Yeah, get into it, man. Hope you like it. And the response has been good. But yeah, I'm sort of like, oh, fuck me. Album 6 I'm back to sort of like going, I can't wait to do it because I can already know like what half the lyrics and all of that's going to sound like. And yeah, I'm pretty pumped for that one.
Mm-hmm. I've been having some very interesting conversations on the podcast lately with guys that have been in bands for a longer period of time, and some of them actually have been quite open about how much they struggle to write new music. Sakis was one of them from Rotting Christ. Spoke and said it gets very difficult to write new stuff and stuff that he's satisfied with. And you guys definitely don't seem to have that problem whatsoever. And actually, I mean, my question was coming from the angle of, are you going to stop at 10? Because it doesn't feel to me like you're running dry of ideas whatsoever. So I was curious to hear you talk about, this being a bit more of a hump for you, Sam.
Just for the whole setting up or helping set up like, PR in the background and running a YouTube channel and sort of like doing a lot of more hands-on stuff that I didn't have to do before. Before it was like kind of, all I had to do was like think of the stupidest possible thing to present as a lyric and do that. And then everyone would be like, that's fantastic. And I'd be like, oh no, thank you. But this time around, it was like, having to actually do a bit more heavy lifting. However, having said that, all distros set up with, we know who we use for media comms. We know how that goes now when we do it by ourselves, and it's kind of like we've got a team again to work with. So that's not going to be the big hassle when it comes to album 6 that was for album 5. And as I say, musically wise, it's just because like when I think of sort of how tricky it was for me to just kind of like match myself into this album, it was probably like the song Fuck You Got Mine, whereas it's a bit more mid-pace, which is not something we've done before. And that was, that was tricky. And I think with My Hate Is Strong as well, like I ran out of hate halfway through that song, which is not a good thing to do.
So we had to call in the big guns for that.
Yeah. So we called in King Panzer himself, Rock from Sadistic Execution, to like do a big bit of screaming. So yeah, just like I don't see that being a problem like going forward, or definitely at least not with album 6. If anything, I'll have the same problem I've been having with the other albums, which I'll get to the end of it. I'll be like, there's more stuff we could have done with this.
I was about to say, there's more hate to express.
And by then, Matt will have written album 7 and be halfway through album 8. So, yeah.
The creative process for you, Matt, has it changed at all for this band, or kind of generally speaking? Because obviously it's not just this that you're putting out. You've got Abramelin coming out this year, which that album is just absolutely crushing. I don't know where you're at with Faustian. You've got Shotgun Mistress. As you getting older, do you find your creative process is changing at all, or that it's becoming harder for you to come up with ideas for some of your projects?
I don't think so. I mean, we've got the next Faustian album sort of written. I haven't written anything in quite a while, actually. I think I'm good at sort of setting time periods. So like I've got a period of this year sort of set aside where it's like, right, I'm going to write something, in that period of time. I think I can't see myself struggling to write more werewolf stuff. It's like, it just, that death metal is fucking in my bones. So it's there. Like it'll happen. I'm not even worried about it. With the shotgun stuff, sometimes that can be a little bit difficult because, being rock music, it's like, I kind of like, I want everything to be like, for me, it's all about the riff. Like I could never just fucking sit there strumming chords. It's got to be dynamite. So, for me, for a rock album, like Appetite for Destruction, it's like, it's so perfect. Like that if the riffs that I come up aren't, perfect, then it's just not worth doing. So it's kind of maybe with that band, it's a little bit harder to just come up with just gold. But, I'm sort of chipping away at that as well, and things are happening. So I don't know. It's just happening. It's just working. Like I can't describe it. The riffs are there. I just dig them up and play them, and that's that.
Do you find it's almost like if you're practiced at writing music, the ideas come more easily, or are you one of those people where, and actually I'm in, my day job, I'm like this with certain things. I'll be lost for a couple of days on an idea or an angle to take with something, and then it'll just suddenly come to me. Like I'll be taking a walk, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, it's there. Rush back to the laptop, okay, start working on it. What is the creative process for you is actually being busy or dedicating time to write? Do you find that makes it easier for the ideas to come? It's like your brain is almost trained to be creative.
Maybe, because when I'm like, if I'm not dedicating time to writing, then I'm doing something else. Like I'm just practicing guitar, or just or forever practicing sweep picking or speed picking or some other sort of nerd thing, for guitar. But if I'm trying to write something, like I'll set aside time and I'll do it. And if it's not happening after half an hour, then maybe I'll stop. And then the next day I'll come back for another half an hour, and bang, something will work. So it doesn't always work, but there's that. What's that saying? It's like, you can wait for inspiration, or you can just make it happen. You can sit around forever waiting for inspiration, but if you just get there and do some work, then pretty soon something will happen. That's my take.
Perspiration beats inspiration.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Sam, how is it for you as you're becoming a more refined and dignified gentleman?
Jeez, I don't know what to say about that slander.
Oh, you are refined and dignified. I mean, I was going to ask you about your wine collection. Is that still going?
Necrosphere, fucking drank it all.
No, just look, it's not a wine collection by South Australian standards by any means. It's what it is like it's a couple who live in wine country who are lightweights, and so we just keep on either like getting the odd bottle here and there, or someone will give us a bottle and it doesn't get drunk. Like I had some friends come over like a couple of weeks ago, and they were like, "Can we bring anything?" And I was like, "Don't bring anything. Do not bring anything. How about a bottle of no? Don't bring any wine." They came over with 2 bottles, and I was just like, "Thanks, man." Like I think we drank one. The other one another
extension to the house for my second cellar.
Actually, everyone here does something extremely black metal. Like there's a lot of abandoned sort of rail tunnels, and just because so many people who live in this state have serious wine collections and love aging it, they'll buy a pallet and they get them stored in like these abandoned railway tunnels.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so
that is serious.
Yeah, so I know some of those people. We're nowhere on that level. As for refined and dignified, when it comes to lyric output,
when it comes to anything creative, because I mean, I know lyrics are kind of mostly your thing, but when we spoke about Antichrist Imperium, for example, there was some, you contributed to some of the finest moments on Volume 3. So the creative process for you, how has that evolved? How has that changed as you're getting older?
I don't get to play as much guitar or bass as I used to, and now when I do, it's normally specifically to get ready for an album or get ready for shows. And I think you really service yourself if you're practicing or playing constantly. I know Matt does. Like anytime I stay over, like even if it's the day after a show, like he's always up before me, and I'll come down. He'll be sitting in front of like either the news or like a movie or something like that, and just be sort of like. Your kind of news, and just be like practicing and doing scales. Whereas for me, that's harder to do. I'm kind of fortunate in that like the main creative thing I have to contribute is lyrics, whereas that works really well with how I work. Quite often for me at my job, it's 12 hours sitting in front of a computer, from dusk till dawn or dawn till dusk, and usually trying to amuse myself any way I can. And that situation is really good for coming up with lyrics, because you've got plenty of, I think when it comes to that, the brain really goes well with lots of boring time or empty time. And that's when the words and phrases just kind of like drop in. Plus, I like my jogging. I live next to a conservation park, so there's plenty of bushwalks here. And that's really good for just coming up with words or combinations of anytime you're stuck for something to say, just go for a long walk and just the shit that starts pouring into your brains, off the charts. So that's how I do it. It's not a problem. That bit isn't slowing down, that's for sure.
I can definitely relate to the having that mental downtime with the lyric writing. Way back when I was in a band in South Africa, I was working as a box office cashier at a cinema. And I mean, if you want to talk about the most tedious, fucking mind-numbing, boring shit on the face of the earth, that job was just, I mean, I don't know how I did it. But anyway, I did it for about 2.5 years. But the only lyrics I've ever written for any band that I didn't immediately look at with disgust and throw away were the lyrics I wrote at that time. I would write them on the back of the ticket stubs as well, because it was just, again, the idea just comes to you. But yeah, those are the only things I can still, to this day, I can look at them and I go, okay, those lyrics were actually pretty decent. The rest of it, I've always been with anything creative. The only thing that has survived the cull has been the podcast. Anything else I've ever attempted, whether it's writing music, writing lyrics, I actually attempted and had a full draft written of a book when I was 15 years old. And it was, about probably a year's worth of work. Went back and started reading it after the midway through the first chapter. I was like, this is trash. Deleted it off of Word, and that was it. So yeah, the only thing I survived was what came out when I was loathing humanity and when I was bored. So, But Matt, watching the news, it'd be pretty interesting to do an experiment and see what comes out when you've got the Don Lemon show or something equally fucking rancid on television, and say, okay, I'm just gonna play this nonstop, hold the guitar, and see what comes out.
I can't fucking be dealing with those fucking fuckwits, man. It's funny. I was at a while ago. We were just at the shopping center, and I think we were just parked up and we were putting the groceries in the car or whatever. And I looked around, and the car beside us, there was two people, and they just loaded all the shit out of their trolley into the car. And I just stood there, just sort of, I was facing that direction. I was watching them. And once they emptied the trolley into the boot, they just sort of took the trolley and just put it in the car space next to them. And I looked and I thought, you fucking put it in the fucking, take it back to the trolley rack, wherever all the other trolleys are. Don't fucking
add 20 steps to your fucking iWatch's fitness app.
Ruin someone else's fucking, so it's like, all right, so they've ruined the car spot. So no one can park there. And I looked the other way and I saw someone walking towards the train station, and they just finished a can of something. And they looked around and then they threw the can on the ground. And I thought, I just live in a fucking world of shit, These people in society are just fucked, Like there's a bin further up. You can't put the fucking rubbish in the bin. They can't take the trolley to the, return it to where it's meant to be. And, that in itself, that kind of thing inspires me. Like I don't need to watch Bill Maher or Don Lemon or any other fucking cunt to get inspired about how to make music.
Oh my god, that trolley thing! I think the missus actually rolled down the window and called someone a cunt when she saw him do the trolley thing not too long ago. And I fully agree. I paint myself as progressive, and fundamentally I am. But on the other hand, if I'd happily bring in a law to just shoot people that don't put their trolley back, that drop litter on the ground. I'd just be like, they're worthless. And then set up a sniper at the funeral just to take out one of the random parents, just as a lesson to everyone else.
Just as a warning.
Yeah. So I just got back from fucking Japan. We just did a bunch of shows with the rock band. And I've never, I was blown away by how sort of respectful, polite, just how amazing all the people are. Every single person I met, be it a venue owner, someone that works at the train station, the local bands that were playing, anyone, anywhere, someone in a coffee shop, someone at the reception of the hotel, every single person I met was just incredibly polite, just nice. I didn't see any. You walk up the street, we're in a multitude of cities, and every single place that I went, there was no fucking drug addicts or slobs or there was no scum. Everyone was just polite and nice, and no crime, no nonsense. And it sort of just, traveling around and seeing that, it kind of really highlighted the state of the state of where we live, over here. And I've, obviously I've been in England for however long. So, just, I don't know, you've lived in Japan as well. It's people are,
I was there for a year in my early 20s and sort of worked there. And I really struggled coming back to Australia after that, for the exact reasons Matt says. Something as obvious walking down the street there, if someone like sort of, gets something on their phone that they need to read, they step off to the side, back to the wall, and like read it. They just don't go, stop in the middle of the sidewalk breathing through their mouth. And as a result, like in downtown, like Tokyo, you can have the population of my entire city moving up and down that street smoothly, like, without having to like jostle or, fight your way through people. And yeah, there's sort of like got that whole thinking about everyone else thing down there that we definitely don't hear. There's a million reasons for it, but yeah, that was a real struggle because a lot of the experiences, I reckon, in your early 20s really stay with you. And my time in Japan sort of stayed with me, and it's left me quite a lot through my adulthood going, why does everyone have to be like this? Fucking hell.
I do a job where I've got teams in 51 countries by my count. So, you get when you do that, you've got a very interesting kind of helicopter view of the world and different cultures and different people in the world. And I've said this before, my experience with people from China and people from Mexico in particular, some of the highest quality human beings that you will ever come across, just in terms of values, manners, work ethic, lack of extreme entitlement. It's such a stark contrast to the rest of the West. Whereas here, if you take the UK as an example, the entitlement is intense. But the entitlement manifests itself in a lot of different ways. I've now taken to, when I go pick my daughter up every second weekend for when she comes to visit me, I've now taken to on the 120-mile journey there and back, counting how many times I avoid a car accident. And on average, it's at least 7 times in a single trip. Because people just don't give a fuck. They don't indicate. They don't bother to stop it. When they need to stop, they'll try and cut you off. They'll try and undercut you. Unfortunately, I have a car where trying to undertake me is no longer an option for most drivers. So, but it's just these. The way that they behave is so fucking closed off to any kind of civility, but they fool themselves into still thinking that they're the leaders of civilization. If you understand, in this kind of meta sense, if you understand what I mean.
I hate to tell you this, Jackie, but I fondly remember like my driving in England compared to South Australia at the moment. Yeah. Everything you said, I could just transplant right here.
During COVID, I said to Paige one day when we were walking, because some dude was screamed over a pedestrian crossing without looking. And I looked at it and I said to her, and this was while we were on one of our allocated, our allotted 1 hour yard time that we got during lockdown. I said to her, I bet you when people can start driving again after, a year or however long, you're going to see some fucking wild shit on the roads here because people are they're going to forget how to drive. Little nuances are going to slip away. And it's just going to turn into a complete and utter shambles. And lo and behold, it did. But it's not just driving. I completely agree with what Matt said. It's in all walks of life. Again, I made this comment when I was on holiday in December last year, and it wasn't. Again, this was partly kicked off by drivers, but also by people's behavior towards other people. I said to Paige, there's an awful lot of folks in this world, especially across the UK and across South Africa, that should go down on their hands and knees every fucking day and pray thanks to whoever they worship that someone like me never gets in charge. Yeah. I wouldn't say as I've gotten older, I've gotten more progressive. I've become more tolerant and empathetic on one hand, but about some other stuff, it's like, no fucking way. I'd have guys walking around ready to dish out some corporal punishment when stuff like that trolley to be, six of the best with a Singapore cane, and they'll never do it again. It'll serve as an example to others. It felt like when you catch these people out with my resolution to animal cruelty, I think is ingenious. Won't be adopted by the populace. Might be a little rough if it ever gets enacted, but you get some guy who you've caught organizing dogfighting rings or something like that. I'd set up 3 enclosures. There's a hippo, maybe a crocodile and a lion in one, line up his family on one side and say, you got 2 minutes to choose which enclosure you get into. If you don't select within the first 2 minutes, first member of your family gets tossed in, and we'll just keep doing that until they're all gone, and then we'll make the decision for you.
Well, I think
and you do that once
fair.
or twice. Cruelty to animals, I can guarantee, will be a thing of the past. People will be so terrified they won't do it anymore.
I think people would still do it because there's always going to be a significant percentage of the population who are just fucking animals that just grow up needing to be beat with sticks, and that's the way they're going to be all their life. But it'd be entertaining for the rest of us. Like, I'd be down with that. I don't watch football, but like I might watch the regular, offenders versus lions.
Well, that's what we could call the show: offenders versus lions. That's another thing, by the way. Football, it's very difficult to mask my contempt for that sport. Especially now, because England has made it through to the finals of the Euros, and everyone is acting like it's the greatest sporting achievement ever. And it's like, I have literally in my life, I don't think they will. No, I don't know.
Everyone.
I have in my entire life only ever managed to make it through one half of a football match. And it was the most excruciating experience of my life. It's literally like a fat woman is just doing earthquake, drops on your head all the time. It was, it was absolutely atrocious. I don't understand how people find the sport enjoyable. It's literally just fucking like kids kicking around the ball to each other in the park.
It's a little bit hard as Australians trying to get into what the rest of the world calls football, we call soccer. Like, we're kind of more raised on Australian rules football here, which has a general hum of violence through it that helps even the non-sporting types like digest an entire match. And for a lot of us, I know, especially for me, I turn it on and I see like that Argentinian cunt rolling around on the ground, that wasn't even touched. If I see Neymar step foot on a patch of grass, it's just so catastrophically unmanly. I can't sit through the rest of it.
That's the name of a song right there, by the way. Catastrophically unmanly.
I would always wind up the people, anyone that watches football or soccer, whichever you choose to go by. Obviously the money that's involved and all the rest of it. You've got the guy that gets, tapped on the shin and falls over, writhing around in agony. And I'd always say, what's going on? People used to get fucking punched by Mike Tyson, and they'd stand up 10 seconds later, and they, maybe they're not all right, but they'd stand up and they wouldn't complain. It's like fucking this guy's.
I could never play this sport.
Tapped on the shin. No, and he's writhing around in agony. It's like,
I could never play it. I want to run up to the guy while he's rolling on the ground, just kick him in the ribs and go, "Get up, pussy!"
But that pussification unfortunately spreads through to other sports. Ireland played South Africa in the rugby this past weekend, and people were absolutely livid about the fact that a perfectly legal tackle, according to the Irish commentators, was followed through on too aggressively. It's like the guy ducks his head. It's not a high tackle. He does a normal tackle, tackles the guy into the ground. Now the guy hit his head on the turf, but that's not the fault of the tackler. What are you supposed to do? Just touch the guy and go, listen, I don't want to follow through on this too aggressively. So, we're just going to assume that I tackled you. It's just a normal sporting injury, which kind of like the Mike Tyson thing. 10 years ago, no one would have batted an eyelid about it. They would have gone, brilliant. We need more of that on this team.
Well played and well taken.
Yeah. Just one thing about Mike Tyson. Everyone, there were people that took a punch and stood up. The one guy that didn't was Michael Spinks. He didn't want any of Mike Tyson. Have you know the fight that I'm referring to, obviously.
Yep.
Have you heard the stories about how terrified he was? Right before the fight started, apparently the dude was quivering. That he didn't want to go out. I mean, you can even see in the walkout, they are literally pushing him down that ramp. Basically to be fed to this fucking absolute barbarian.
Yeah, but that's interesting though, because I mean, if you've got the bottle to, if you've reached a point in your, fighting career where you can face off with Mike Tyson, it's like you're up there. So it's like, I mean, Mike Tyson's fucking, fucking,
especially back then when he was a fucking savage, just walking down, going, "I want to kill, so let me kill someone."
Yeah. But I mean, if you're at the level where you're even in, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to fucking fight Mike Tyson for sure.
Oh, dude, he was in his prime. He was just absolutely unbelievable. And I mean, the first way in which you know someone knows what they're talking about when it comes to boxing is if they actually appreciate his technical talent and don't refer to him as a boxer. Because for a guy to be shorter and lighter than the rest of his weight class and dismantle men the way that he used to, he needed to be so trained and so precise in everything that he did. It's absolutely extraordinary. And again,
footwork, that footwork he got from Cuz D'Amato. I hear stories about him, like someone back when he was like staying, at his place, and they'd go down to the basement like at midnight or so, and they'd strung up a washing line, and his job was just to go the length of it, and they go down at midnight and say, "Mike, you got training tomorrow, or you got to fight tomorrow. You don't need to be still working, get some rest." And he was just like, I really get off on any story really with almost any sport or even artists, on the guys who just go through that period of time where they're just can't put the ball down, can't stop training, can't stop doing their thing and just find this next level. And definitely that was Tyson. I feel, I almost think the heavyweights around him were fortunate to have a Tyson that they could, measure themselves against.
No, I would completely
Tyson Fury, the Klitschko's, they're good, man. But there's been too many mixed results, and the sport and the judging these days, you have to get a Tyson-esque clean knockout to be confident that was a fight that you won, kind of thing. So
there was also an aura around Tyson that I don't think anybody in boxing since has had. I mean, it's not been a sport that I've followed with it, to any great degree. But Tyson, I think, crossed over in a way that no other boxers have done. I think in MMA, it's a different story altogether. But just on the topic of the story, have you ever seen a documentary called Champs?
No.
Came out in 2014. It basically chronicles Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, and Bernard Hopkins. At the end of Champs, they kind of show Tyson and Evander Holyfield reconciling. And I think Bernard Hopkins is in the room with them as well. But it tells their story and how kind of their stories crisscrossed and each individual person's walk, and they go into quite a lot of detail about Tyson. When he was young. I mean, that dude was, when he was in the Junior Olympics, I mean, one of the most fucking frightening things I've ever seen in my life. Only thing I've seen that's more terrifying is Brock Lesnar doing high school wrestling, and you think to yourself as a parent, you're sending your kid out to face that. I'd be like, fuck this. Your wrestling days are over, son.
This refrigerator with muscles. Yeah.
But I think you have to, Matt, you touched on a good point there, though. A lot of, armchair critics will talk shit about, particular fighters and stuff. I always found it incredibly distasteful when, for example, Chuck Liddell was, on the back end of his career, and I'd be in conversation. You hear this fucking, know nothing dickhead say, "Oh, Chuck Liddell's useless." I'm like, Chuck Liddell is useless. Like, if you had a 0.5% of that guy's sand, you would understand that what you've just said is probably one of the dumbest things on the face of the earth. A guy that dismantled one after the other beast, made them look like they're absolutely like they're useless, is now an older guy, and it's not as hard for him anymore. But actually, even just being in that position yourself, I remember when I did my first Interclub, just the level, how nervous you are getting in there and realizing after the first shot, it's like, okay, no one's fucking around here anymore. This person's actually trying to hurt me. Do you amplify that to being in the cage, or to being in a boxing ring, or being in a Thai boxing ring? It's it's only a very prescriptive few, or very, very select few that can, I think, thrive in that environment, which is why I'm so astonished by people like John Jones or Alex Breyer or someone like that. I mean, they are just it's people that are just cut from a very different cloth.
The other thing as well is like there's another side to it, which is like true masters make really difficult stuff appear really easy. Like I remember seeing Sean Reiner at one time drumming for Cynic, and I was backstage at Brutal Assault, just kind of like, you know, only a few meters away, just watching it. And we all know how tricky their music is, and the guy was just flowing through it like nothing. And same thing, almost like, you know, if we're specifically talking about Chuck Liddell, like I remember seeing him breaking down, I think doing a punching clinic just on like a straight right, and how he introduces that or non-telegraphs it, some of the ways he throws it, like all that sort of thing. And, you know, you see these guys, and Matt knows far more about this than me, but you see these guys sort of like go in and it might look like a scrap to many people, but yeah, they're making something extremely complex look easy because they're masters, and they have to be to get to where they are.
So it's like you think about how many times a boxer would throw a jab cross or a jab cross hook or any combination of things. It's like they're the tools, so they've done them like, you know, that they would do them thousands and thousands of times. But but again, for anyone that's going to get in the ring with someone like Tyson back then, or even or any sort of top fighter, it's just like it's a whole different mindset to the average person.
Well, I mean, I would say my position is you absolutely have the right to be fucking shit scared if you were going to get into the ring with Tyson. I would have been. It would have been like fighting Vanderlei in Pride. Again, you see how that guy used to glare at people, and when he did that thing with his hands, it's like, oh my god, fucking I don't want to deal with this shit.
The axe murderer, dude. Yeah. I was going to say, who would you be more scared getting in a ring with, Vanderlei or Tyson? I'll go first. Vanderlei. Yeah, I'd be more scared because Tyson, it ends when you hit the canvas. Yeah. Just imagine getting that savage steroided Pride era right hook from Vanderlei landing on the mat after having that moment, opening your eyes and just seeing that, just seeing the foot like soaring towards the bridge of your nose like repeatedly, while some like one of these Japanese referees that just wants to see a man die is officiating and is just like watching from the corner, like, you know, just enjoying it.
Okay, well, here's the true question. Crocop in Bride or Vanderlei in Bride?
Actually, I'd still... Crocop was unintimidatable, and he was pretty scary as well, but I'd still be more scared by Vanderlei just for the sheer Brazilian violence. But Crocop, like, you know, I'd always pick him in a fight, just because he didn't have that, you know... When Vanderlei got into the ring, same as Tyson, like, you know, he was intimidating, and there was plenty of fighters, I think, who were intimidated to be across from him, just like drooling in bloodlust, waiting for it to like happen. Whereas like Crocop obviously was at that point in his Eastern European life where like nothing was scaring him anymore. And that's got to be scary in itself, to be in a ring with a guy who just doesn't know fear. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to be in a ring with either of them. I wouldn't want to be like shit barely in the building unless there was another target that they're after.
Well, you talk about technique and making something look good. I mean, there were few things that looked as incredible as a Crocop kick. Whether he was doing it on the bag or whether that was landing against a man's head. I would always, when I did Thai boxing, I'd look at that and I'd go like, that's the gold standard. I mean, this technique is so crisp and so flawless.
Such a delicious kick, yeah.
He started with a right leg hospital, left leg cemetery. That's one of the best things ever.
With those, you know, with the Thai sort of like the leg kicks, it's like, you know, if you've got like a slick fighter and hit you with that sort of kick to the leg, that only need 20%. They've got you right. They hit you properly, and you just fall on the ground. You know, it's fucking. Oh, it's too much. It hurts. It's just
well, you've seen you've no doubt seen it, Matt. But the videos of Sanchai just beating the fuck out of like much bigger dudes in Thailand. And he's like just enjoying himself. It's not even, there's no stress, there's no nothing. He's just having a good time. He's got a smile on his face most of the time.
Yeah, it's just magical to watch. That's the highest level, those sort of dudes. So,
I just like watching Wilcock kicking down trees. That's my shit.
Oh yeah. Just on the topic of Pride, we talk about Vandelay Silver being intimidating, but Pride 33, Dan Henderson, after having lost to Vandelay, comes back and fucking just knocks the dog shit out of him.
Dan Henderson's an animal. Like
Dan Henderson is one of my like Mount Rushmore fighters. He's in my top 5. I will always think he's one of the greatest fighters, greatest men to have ever lived.
Yeah, that's if you're going to say which one out of like the top 10 Pride fighters do you want to like sit down at a barbecue and have some beers with, probably Dan Henderson, just because you know he's not going to suddenly like get the eye of the tiger and need to like slay everyone at your party. A bit more chill, but the scalps he claimed, like it's really strange how like he took out so many big names and wasn't and isn't commonly seen as like a top 5 or all-time sort of fighter. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one with him, hey.
Well, he knocked Fedor Emelianenko unconscious.
Yeah,
I mean, and didn't just beat him
in the most inventive way.
Mugged him. I've never seen a guy hit a man so hard from underneath a clinch on the ground that the dude lifts off the ground. I mean, let alone the fact that he's a heavyweight.
It was the fact that in the position that he was in, most guys would be like, right, I'm getting in for the rear naked choke here. Like there's his back. And the guy didn't even bother about it. He punched underneath his supine body and got him. That was, I don't think I'd ever seen that before. But my favorite one is, of course, like Henderson getting an unconscious Bisping, and just that famous photo of him soaring through the air with the right hand just about to bring down some atomic crushing right on the guy's unconscious face before the referee can even get in to go, please don't do that.
And it almost, if you do it in slow motion, it almost looks like he kisses his glove right before he does it, and then he still has the wherewithal afterwards to basically cut a wrestling promo on him and say the first one was to knock him out, the second one was to shut him up.
There's a savage video. There's a savage Thai boxing video out there just on YouTube of it's an old video, but a dude he gives someone like bang bang bang, like jab cross hook, and the hook like catches him, just fucking bang, he's gone. And as he's falling, the right kick comes through. So he's already unconscious from the hook. Well, he's gone. He's just knocked out. The hook happens, and he's falling, and then that right kick happens, and he just gets him in the head after he's already done, and it's like just lights out. It's gone. It's so savage.
It reminds me of the famous Pride one. I think it was Igor. I don't know how to say his last name. Vovchanchin. That he right hooks a guy, and as the fella's going down, he gets him about another 3 times just on the way to canvas. But that was one of their famous earlier promos as well.
When you got that steroid muscle, it's easy to do those things. It is crazy. Like when you hear the stories about how they basically actively encourage you to take steroids. It's like, do whatever. This Wild West. Do whatever you need to put on the best possible fight. There is part of that mindset about. It doesn't really even matter if you win or lose. It matters about how much the crowd appreciated what they saw. I mean, that is kind of part of what that was one of the secret ingredients, I think, that made Pride so cool. Yeah. Like you could hear the crowd lose it, like, enjoy if there was a guy who was just getting absolutely massacred, but was still had the heart to stay in it. Which is, again, that's that Japanese refereeing there, like if he dies, sort of thing. I almost see sort of like metal being almost a bit like MMA, because I'm a Pride era guy, and if you sat me down and said, what do you want to watch? Do you want to watch UFC 200, or do you want to go back and watch some old Pride VHS tapes? I'd be like, sit me down in front of the box, man. I want to see some Japanese bloodletting, but they've gotten better as fighters.
there's no doubt about it, and the sport now, the guys who are like winning now, if you time traveled them back then, they're clean up. They are so much more rounded. But those fighters back then were scarier, and I almost see it with the metal. Like a lot of the guys these days have like just the most amazing skills, and like just about every death metal band these days, if you took that guitarist, time traveled him back to 86 and stuck him next to Kerry King, well, they'll make him look like a toy. And the drummers as well. Like I'm a Pete Sandoval man. I think he's fantastic. But shit, I remember being backstage like on that Berserker tour, like in the States with Nile and Napalm Death. And I remember just like, Pete watching Tony Loreno pound out that Nile set and turning to me just like going, fuck, he's so fast. Dude, are you seeing that? I'm like, I've been seeing that for the last 30 days, man. Fuck. The guys with the skills these days, shit, you put Spencer Pruitt next to Pete Sandoval, like, Spencer will be able to play Pete stuff, not necessarily vice versa. But having said that, I do, back in those days, a lot more of the guys in bands were just like seemed to be these unhinged lunatics who brought like almost an aura of like fear or terror, sort of like with them and with the show as well. So yeah, and it's weird. We're in a weird time.
I wonder if that's. I mean, there's the whole fucking social media internet thing, and like, if you think back to like 90s or whatever, you've got like Morbid Angel, Deicide, Cannibal Corpse, stuff like all the 90s bands. Like, you didn't know anything about them. They were enigmas. You didn't know anything about Trey or David Vincent or Pete. They were all just these larger-than-life characters, which you, as a teenager or whatever at the time, it's like these people are just fucking. You've never known or you've never met them. You don't know anything about them except they fucking they've written Covenant, they've done Legion, whatever, and it's just mind-blowing and incredible. Whereas maybe now, like, you can go on fucking Instagram and see what any of these modern people are fucking having for lunch or breakfast or fucking whatever they're doing or what the cat's doing or fucking, anything. Yeah. And it's the magic's kind of gone. Maybe, I don't know whether that's part of it. I mean, when you say like you listen to Archspire and listen to Covenant, it's like, well, Archspire is very good, but there's something about Covenant that's just fucking,
that captures the imagination.
Yeah. Like,
I think it has a lot to do with feel. Now, I mean, I don't subscribe to the idea that there's not good new music coming out. I mean, you guys are great, but but beyond that, I have already pulled together what would in any other year be an incredibly formidable top 30 list. We had an abundance of riches with new music this year. I when it comes to bands like Archspire, I absolutely agree with what you're saying. It's like technically absolutely incredible, but it lacks feel to me. And I've had been on a bit of a spate of going onto YouTube recently and looking at old shows. Like I discovered one that I actually played on the news rant a while back with Morbid Angel doing the Ancient Ones live in like 1990. I think it was 1991. You can see Richard Brunel on stage. The song's a little sped up. David Vincent is standing on stage, fucking belting out every line like he really has something to prove. And I think. In a way, I think the feel comes from the fact if we think about these pivotal moments in the music that we listen to, Tampa Bay death metal scene, lots of bands, very competitive. Everybody had something to prove. Everybody was giving maximum effort on stage and maximum effort on album. And you feel that intensity. You feel that passion coming through in what they're doing. Same with black metal, 1992 to 1994, highly competitive. Everyone had something to prove. Everyone like when they were going to put out an album or when they were going to play the rare times that some of them played shows, it was like, we're going to do something here that's going to really kind of make people sit up and notice. In some ways, like it's almost more competitive now, but I do feel with digital recording, with just how the culture has changed generally, you don't have as many characters and you just don't have that feel and intensity from a lot of bands anymore, which is why I think a lot of, more seasoned listeners kind of check out, because if they're not getting that same rush that you get from seeing Morbid Angel in 1991, it's just not the same to them. But I think there's pros and cons to it. I like the fact that I can have these conversations with people that like Attila, and it does take away from some of the mystery, but in some ways it makes it more interesting. But then at the same time, that sense of unknowing, that sense of menace, danger, not knowing what's going to come next, it is fucking cool. I mean, it's at the core of almost everything great. Even if we take music out of the equation, bring it back to Pride, you can take it back to wrestling in the late 90s. There were so many things that were so cool that we all grew up with, and one of the things that made those things so cool was because you didn't know what was coming next. It's always this sense of the unexpected.
And I think as well, like people were going right at the limit of their abilities as well, and maybe even like nudging past them. So I was listening to Nocturnus, I think, today, and Mike Davis, not the world's best drummer, but he's obviously playing at and slightly beyond his abilities in that, and there's almost like a little bit of, you can hear the music straining a bit. It's kind of like the other day, Matt, when I was on the phone to you and I was like, check this out, and did a blast beat, and you could tell you could tell
that you weren't a drummer.
Yeah, so like A, I'm not a drummer, but B, like sort of like it's a one-handed blast, like obviously far beyond like my my ability to play anything, and I think metal, it really does well when it's got like something a little bit off kilter with it, where they're kind of like just getting stretched, and just half the band is just trying to keep up with the other half, like and do it while they can. And it feels like, I heard someone say the phrase, it feels like it could fall apart any minute. And I think that's where metal's, for me anyway, as a listener, is at its best.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I think again, going back to the whole idea of the unknown and the and the unexpected, there's not a huge amount that can, I personally think, that can be done that hasn't been done. If we go away from death metal and black metal, just go to normal metal, Roadrunner were so high on King A10 because they thought that was going to be the next evolution of something scary and menacing after the success that they'd had with Slipknot, and that fell down completely for them, because by that point everyone was like, well, you're trying to present this metal or this gangster metal band, but we've already seen hip hop, so next. And even with heavy stuff that we listen to, no matter how heavy and brutal and crazy things are, we've all heard a blast beat. We've all heard a deep growl. We've all heard a high pitched scream. How much more can anybody show you that you haven't seen, or if you've got a reasonable education or musical context when you listen to something, you don't kind of anticipate, okay, this is coming next or that is coming next. So the only thing that you then have to replace it with is actual feel, and I think that's what you guys do incredibly well. I think the feel comes out of what you do almost perfectly, And if I take some of my favorite songs that by this band, Harvest of the Skulls being one of them, I mean, there's just every single line you're doing, Sam, is just spitting. It's venomous, is how I would describe that song. And there's always been the thing with this band that why I love what you guys do so much is there's reverence to the old school, but you guys are doing your own thing. You sort of have that Aussie off-kilterness to it as well. But that feel is there on every single song.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, cheers. We try.
Yeah, I'll drink to that.
Now I would be remiss if I didn't ask about this, but I must know if there's, what's coming next. Volume 4. Has there been any discussion about working on something, doing something? Have you had any ideas? Like, well, what's the story there? That album, by the way, was so well received by the Legion. I mean, I still get people that message me and go, oh, just listen to, the Sam Bean episode you did, or I listened to the Matt Wilcock episode you did. I went and checked out Antichrist Imperium. It's fucking incredible. And more and more people seem to be discovering that band.
Cool. Well, the short answer is no, we've not written anything else. The main problem that I think I think we'd encounter is that album was pretty good. Like, yeah, I think both me and Sam can be fairly confident in saying that it was a win. And I don't know if I can. I just don't think I can top it. Not at the moment. Not with everything that's going on in life. It's like I just don't think I've got the material and the bandwidth to try and make it better. And I don't know if I could. I don't know if I'd be happy to do another Antichrist album that wasn't a step up again, because each one I think has been a step up from the previous. At least in songwriting and sort of, songwriting primarily. But that last one, it's hit the mark on so many points. On a personal note, I'm not talking about fucking commercial sales or this or fucking that, but it was a pretty satisfying album once it was done. And thinking about the amount of work that goes into one of those fucking albums, it's like, I don't know. Like, where do I start? I pick up a guitar and try and write a riff. It's like, oh, well, that's cool, but, what about the other fucking 900 riffs in the album?
I was going to say, like, we've been also spoilt with Wells as well. Like, we get to pump out an album, like, pretty quick. And as soon as everyone else has the riffs, shit's in motion, you know that there's going to be something in your hands like a year later. With Antichrist Imperium, like, it's years of work. And, with Werewolves, there's very little sort of like feedback between us. It's like, right, Matt does guitars, got the guitars. Dave does drums, got the drums. I get it, do lyrics and vocals, bang, tidy, job done. With Antichrist Imperium, there's a lot of back and forth between like the entire band, and everyone's got a vision, sort of like, so there's a lot of going over with that, and the production timeline for it is far longer. And to be honest, for me, like the last album, it's quite funny. Matt and I are often saying to each other with the Antichrist Imperium albums, we have to remind each other it will sound good at the end. Like, don't lose faith. It will sound good at the end. And for me, like, I only started getting excited about it about a month from the end of production. And then from then on, like, it went exponentially. Like a week later, I was like, oh, we've got something good. 2 weeks later, we've got something really good. Days before it got mastered and it was all done, it was like, fuck, this one's something pretty special. But, it's pretty hardcore to work on something for 3 or 4 years, and it only comes down to days beforehand where you're kind of like, oh, all right, this is going to actually be worth it.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and the payoff's there, but it's at the very end,
I remember having a similar conversation with you, Matt, as well, where you were like, I don't know about the new material. It's, it's I'd never thought about it like that before. To work on something for 3-4 years and only really start to see what you've created, or the beauty of what you've created, a couple of weeks before you're done with the whole process. That is, I think that's an interesting spot to be in.
Yeah. It's funny because, I mean, I think back to, like, over the years when there has been albums that I've done where it's like, you get to the end and it's like, oh wow, this is really cool. Or sometimes you hear it and you're like, I kind of would have done things differently, or I wish there was a bit more of this or a little bit more of that. And the first time that I had I think the first Antichrist album, that was pretty satisfying. I was never quite happy with the ACK albums. I've said many times about Antichrist, I was never happy with that. But it's
even you even felt the same about Words Ago Unspoken?
Yeah, I mean, from a production point of view, I mean, I think that album was like incredible, and I didn't contribute much to that album. I just wrote a song and did solos in various songs and that. But the first time that I was like utterly blown away by hearing my own work was when we got the master for What a Time to Be Alive, and I think Joe had sent it back, or wherever it had come from. Maybe it was the final mixes, whatever. But it was during the whole fucking COVID thing, and we got the Joe had sent back the mixes, overnight, and I was doing this weird sort of work thing where I started at, because we were working in shifts and blah blah blah. So I was driving to work at like fucking 4:30 in the morning, and I had the final mix of What a Time to Be Alive, and I thought, oh, cool. So I put it on at 4:30 a.m. and I listened to that on like fucking full volume whilst driving to work. And it was, there's no traffic, and the album lasted the exact time it took me to get to work. And as I pulled into work, I'm like, I felt like, that Simpsons episode where fucking Milhouse gets that death crush game or whatever the fuck it's called, and he's just sat on the chair, and his eyelids and his hair is just fucking blown back from the TV. That's what I felt like. I'm like, I can't believe this is so fucking crushing. So, yeah, like I just can't imagine that yet with another Antichrist album. So I'm a bit hesitant to sort of. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. But it's a daunting task to undertake.
And that's just Matt and myself. Like, I know that Sam and Dave are, busy with the Null Nathrak at the moment. Like, that went from just, we'll do a show or two to they're now putting a few shows like under their belts. So, that would be a question for them as well, if they would be interested.
I do hope that. My understanding is there's nothing creatively in the pipeline for Null Nathrak. I certainly hope if there is that they erase that last pile of shit they released out of existence, because I'll never understand how you can sully an almost perfect discography with such a terrible record. But anyway, it's that aside, it would be a real shame for me if Sam Loynes' time, or if his creativity were to be the time. Was actually, I'm trying to find the right phrasing for this. If the time that he has to express himself creatively is taken up by a band that's touring, past records, because he is so fucking good, and he's such a capable musician, and I think he has so much to offer musically. I would love to see more of him. I mean, his work on the Antichrist Imperium was incredible. His work with voices was, I thought, absolutely top notch. He's a very, very, very talented musician. And as I said, I like an Null Nathrak, barring the last record, but unless they're going to make new music and he's going to be involved in helping with the writing, I hope there's more. I hope there's more from him, or more time, at least time bandwidth for him to do something else substantial.
Yeah. Well, with the Antichrist album, he would send stuff through, and he was on fucking limited time because, like everyone, life, work, commitments, blah blah blah. So he was like, right, I've got a Tuesday evening to work on this because I've got to go to work and I've got to fucking do this and that, like all of us. And he would send through some stuff, and I'm like, it's amazing, man. It's like, it's just fucking gold.
Everything he sent through was gold. Like, the problem we were suddenly faced with is like, oh shit, do we just have him like going wall to wall, or do we actually like drop some of this stuff?
Yeah, totally. And there was, I'll be honest, there was a few bits that collectively the vote was remove that section and keep this bit. And I'm like, fucking hell, but that bit's so good. Can't we keep that as well? And I was outvoted, and it's a democracy. So, but it's like, fuck. But yeah, he's great. He's very, very talented, and he's I'm really happy for those guys that they're doing the NL shows, and they're sort of they're traveling a bit and doing some stuff. I mean, I'd really love to see another Voices album, but I've got a feeling that's not going to happen anytime soon, unfortunately. And I'd also like I'd love to see a fucking Ack album as well. But yeah, who knows how long that's going to take.
I've got insight on that that I can't share publicly. We can talk about it offline.
I'm sort of got insight as well.
Ditto with voices. Voices. I think Sam has been pretty open about it. I don't think I don't think there's going to be another one. Yeah. I think Breaking the Trauma Bond was the last we'll hear from them, which is a shame because Breaking the Trauma Bond was a fucking masterpiece.
That was very good. Yeah. Totally. And I fully get it if Sam's sort of like, I don't want to make another one of that. It's kind of like, well, I think we might even be in the same situation with Antichrist Imperium. It's sort of like, how do we bust past that? Don't know if we can go out on the high. So, but yeah, who knows?
You would be going out on the high, and actually, you'd also be going if the last notes were the Sam singing "We Kill for Satan." That would be a perfect way to end the Antichrist Imperium trilogy.
Yeah.
I can still remember the first time I heard that, like him sending it through, just like going, that end section, as far as we were concerned, was already awesome. And then for him to start singing that, and then, it's like what I was talking about with the mix and the master just going in the last few days. It was only in the last few days someone had the idea to just like shift that downwards. And I was like,
From memory as well, that last song, I think I remember talking to you, Sam, and we were sort of, for various reasons, we were sort of saying, this song's not going to happen. It's fucked. Delete it. It's not going to happen. Let's scrap it. And then all of a sudden, various things happened with the mix and with the change. We did this and that, and it's like, fuck it out. Like, it's one of my sort of favorite ones now, And then, all those little bits and bobs that happened, just the fucking vocals fading out and distorting and fucking up, and the intro and putting lead guitar, all those little secret spices that fucking happen like right towards the end. That's where the fucking magic, it all comes to fruition.
And I guess also you've got the creative freedom where if you had black metal ideas that don't necessarily fit in with Werewolves, you can use that in Faustian.
Yes.
There's nothing really preventing you from doing anything that you want to do in Faustian. That's kind of almost in a way that you have that luxury with a lot of black metal where, black metal bands can do different stuff on records and no one's going to think anything of it.
Yeah, I think we've actually already we've taken one of the Werewolf songs and we're like, that's a little bit too black metal. We'll shift that over to the other band and see what happens there.
We can make things more pure now.
Yeah, cold.
Well, I thought We Come as Angels was fucking magnificent, by the way. I genuinely did. I thought that was a more... It captured the spirit of earlier Nal Nathrak better than the last Nal Nathrak album did. Just pure fucking malevolence, musical malevolence and hatred. It is superb. And then, obviously, you've also got this year, I mentioned it earlier, but you've got the Abramelin album coming out, Matt, which I think is going to catch a lot of people off guard because it is a brilliant record. And for me, a big step up from Never Enough Snuff.
Yeah, that's a funny one. There's been a whole lot of turmoil around that album. None of which I sort of really talk about, but it's pretty exciting that album's done. Me and Dave, we've spent a lot of time talking about that album, about what's been happening with it and how it's going to happen. And anyway, now that it's done and it's out, well, it's with the label and it's going to be, I think a single is probably coming out in a couple of weeks or something. But it's a pretty good moment for a band that, that band was probably one of the main reasons that I sort of began playing death metal. Like if anything, if I learned how to play fast or speed pick or play death metal, that's where it came from. So it's 25 years after the fact, it's pretty satisfying to be sort of putting out albums with that band. So it's good.
Well, I remember the Transgression from Acheron and the self-titled first record. They were massive in South Africa. There weren't a huge number of bands from Australia that kind of filtered through to us when I was a young'un, but those two did, and people absolutely fucking loved them.
Yeah, they, those two, they were I don't know what happened with the distro then, but there must have been something good because there's people all over the world that, like, I know that there was a Spanish label that put out self-titled. They probably did a combined EP and self-titled thing. And but I mean, I've been places all over the world, and I've met people from all over the world, and everyone knows that album. Like the first time that I went to the States, with Sam, with Berserker, the first venue that I walked into, someone came up to me and said, "Oh, do you play in Abramelin?" I was like, yeah. And I was like, just blown away that I should be just, the first time I've ever been overseas, and someone the first thing anyone said was they asked me that question. So it's pretty cool, and having met a bunch of Gibraltarians from in London, they all had that album when they were kids and stuff, and it's like, fucking hell, it's managed to get everywhere. So yeah, it's good.
Extra impressive when you consider that there was a band name change as well, from early on.
Right.
Like, it was Acheron before it became Abramelin. So it would be very easy for them to have just disappeared into the fog like a lot of those old releases do. But
final question, again, because you guys have touched on it a few times now. Would there ever be any desire to revisit or resurrect the Berserker?
Yeah. Who wants to go first? I'll go first. I think it's days done. Like, Berserker is, at the end of the day, Luke, and whoever he's got working with him. And if Luke ain't working, the band ain't working. It's as simple as that. And he's sort of really got no interest. I think 2020 was like the last chance of something happening. When the big announcement went out, a new Berserker album was happening, and I wrote a whole bunch of tracks. Matt was throwing in riffs as well, and we were kind of like, it's the dissimulate lineup. Like, you've got the guys who did the most successful album with Berserker and also the most amount of touring. Like, go with us. And then kind of I knew that it was getting speed wobbles when all of a sudden he was kind of like, oh, we'll get this guy in and this guy in. And I was just speaking to this other guy, let's get him in as well. And I was like, fuck, here we go. And then when sort of like COVID hit, I knew that was going to be all he needed to just knock the project on the head. So I know it sucks because I know it would go down really well. It's one of those bands where, it'd be payday at a festival somewhere to, pull out an hour-long set. It's coming across a lot of anniversaries as well for like the debut release, but also to simulate. It'd crush to be able to play, a remembrance show, and especially with all the years of now experience that we've accrued since then. I'd imagine we'd be so much better and it'd be so much more impactful, but it just ain't going to happen. Luke's just not into it. It's hilarious, man. Anyone even walks up to him and tries to have a conversation about music, the guy just like walks in the opposite direction these days. So
yeah, it's funny. Like I listened to that album. I listened to a bunch of my albums I've done over the years, once every so often years, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and I listened to the Berserker one. I listened to Simulate like whenever it was, like a couple of years ago or something, and that was the first time I'd heard it for like a long time, and it was a real spin out to hear that album, because it's not my usual sort of guitar tone. It's not how I play anymore. It's not the kind of riffs that I really write, and it was just a spin out to hear it. And thinking back to how long ago it is, it's like, you kind of think, oh, well, you could do a 20. When did it come out? 2002?
I think it's 2002, yeah.
So, fucking hell, it's been, 20 years. It's like, I don't know, maybe if the fucking planets align and someone pays us pays us all a whole lot of money, maybe there's a 25-year anniversary in the works. But I don't know, Yeah. It's,
Look, anyone listening, like if they've got their shit together, just say to Luke, sell me the fucking band name. Like, and he'd probably, or just give me the band name so you don't even have to do anything. Like, and you know, if that happened, then that'd probably be the best shot. Just like some dude who wants to like scream into a mic, shave his head, get a mohawk and long beard, and you know, step into his shoes. Maybe that could happen. Yeah, but yeah, it sort of sucks, man. There's a lot of good material that's just kind of like just sitting there, might get used.
I was about to say, you guys wouldn't consider releasing that under a different name?
Nah. Fucking writing death metal is our specialty. So it's like, you know, like I'll write an album in the drop of a hat. So, you know, anything that we write, anything that me and Sam write, we'll fucking specifically do for something, and we'll fucking do it, and that'll be that. So, yeah.
Stuff I maybe like wrote for that Berserker album, I might redo as a Senseless album one day when I get enough spare time to, you know, put something out. But I thought that was actually going to be this year, but no, it turns out having a kid do the last year of school is busy. So
I thought you were going to say, it turns out when Shadow of the Erdtree got released, a lot of my free time went out the window.
Well, I was wondering when we were going to talk about that. Like, actually,
I haven't started playing it yet, partly because, I've never finished the base game. I can't get past the fucking Elden Beast. I've tried it 1,000 ways from Sunday. I'll go back, replay, and then I get to a point where I'm like, actually, you know, I've leveled up so much now. I'm sailing through most of the bosses. I get to the Elden Beast. I think it's a fucking mental block. I just cannot get past it.
You want to know the secret of getting past Elden Beast?
I
can give you the secret. I can give you the secret. Bloodhound Step. So,
okay, all right.
Because that lets you...
Is that a fucking Magic the Gathering thing?
I could see you like trying to pick your shot.
I've got no idea what you're trying to fucking say. I was playing Super Mario World last night and I was failing miserably at it.
The terrible thing is, like, Matt's actually got a PS4 like at his place, and he just uses it for like watching TV shows or Netflix. And one of these days, I just know it. He'll like get Assassin's Creed Valhalla, or he'll get like Elden Ring or something like that, and he'll just get sucked into the world, and that's where Werewolves and fucking all the bands will end, because like but yeah, if you can't get past Elden Beast, Bloodhound Step, because it lets you just teleport a tiny itty bitty bit, and let's get through some of those big stonking attacks that fuck you right up. But yeah, I'm actually holding off as well from Shadow of the Erdtree, not because I haven't finished the game. I've finished the living fuck out of it. But it's first things first. I got waylaid. Like I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey last year, the one set in ancient Greece, and the youngest was doing ancient Greece, like at school. The game's set during the Peloponnesian War, which fortunately enough was like the subject of, you know, ancient Greece on the teacher's lips. So she went and aced the shit out of that because she'd been watching me play it, and I could, like, you know, play it, and she was learning, and I could then sort of like, you know, hit her with questions during it. Who were the two major participants of the Peloponnesian War? You know, yada, yada, yada. And this year it was Vikings, so I was like, oh, damn, I guess I have to download Assassin's Creed Valhalla. You know, so she learns about the great Norwegian expansion over into England or Mercia, and, you know, boost her marks there. It's not because I love playing games, endless games that go for fucking hours.
I was about to say, you need to, you know, take it one step further and take her to Oslo next year in April for Inferno. You know, she can see where the Vikings come from.
There's a small chance of that. Her birthday present was a record player, and today, like, we went record shopping for the first time. She hadn't been to a record store before. And so I took her into a place. I even turned around and said to the guy, her first record store. And yeah, sort of like went buying albums there. And I think, you know, long play record format is definitely where metal shines. You get the really good sounds. Like, metal just gets slaughtered by digital. I'm late to that party, unfortunately. But yeah, you get to hear it at its best, and you get to like sort of sit down, block everything out, and enjoy it as well. And it's not made to be a disposable form of music. A lot of other things are, but yeah, she's into buying vinyl now, so it's just a matter of time, Jackie.
What vinyl has she bought out of interest?
She bought I wish. No, I think what was it? She got the first Eurythmics. Got Arctic Monkeys. I don't know which album it was. It was the one they did 505 on. So she's got a couple of solid ones there. I think I dug out some old Motown as well, because it was like, $5 or so, and I was like, look, here's a few things just so you've got a range of shit to listen to. But also, yeah, that old Motown, but also if you get to the 70s funk era, and especially like if you get like some Herbie Hancock Bitches Brew era stuff, like that shines on vinyl. It's absolutely glorious. So I'm sort of keeping an eye out for that as well. But yeah, man, I don't know. That was just this morning. She went and shut herself in the room with the player and her new headphones and find out what she thinks. You never know. She might come out going, this is bullshit. If music's to be listened to on TikTok in 30-second like bursts and stuff. Yeah. You don't know. We'll find out.
Meadow broke my heart because she's got generally speaking, she likes heavier stuff, and I had taken her to Paradise Lost. She had a great time, but sadly, unfortunately, the pervasive influence of her mother comes in, and she got into Olivia Rodrigo. So a while back, I was like, okay, convince me on whether this is good. So she showed me some live clip of Olivia Rodrigo on YouTube, and I couldn't watch after 30 seconds. It was like, this is the worst fucking nonsense. So I'm very sorry. You can listen to whatever you want, but this fucking sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of lucky. Like, out of the two girls, one's just like a hard no for anything metal. And if you step into my car and I'm dropping you off at like school or dance, you're getting exposed to some metal. I've got a massive old school pure 90s playlist like in there that everyone gets a face full of. But like last night I think I was working in the back room as well, where all the guitars and basses are, and she came down, sort of wanted to learn bass, picked up the BC Rich, and I think showed her a Hosier bass line. Not a metal band, but yeah, you got to start somewhere. Actually, speaking of that, holy shit, she picked out some vinyl. She was going through the vinyl today. She picked out NWA Straight Outta Compton. Dude, normally it would be like, let's buy it, but I think it was like for $60 or $70. But also, I was envisioning the bollocking I'd be getting from her mother, like, just walking in, like, hearing her listening to like Dope Man.
Dude, I went down and I frequently do actually, down a like early 90s hip-hop rabbit hole. I discovered so many more gems. Sleeping with the Enemy by Paris. I mean, like pure, he's like a full-on Black Panther, it's like black nationalist lyrics, but he is such a good rapper. And Sleeping with the Enemy in particular, I mean, the whole concept of it is basically him dreaming about assassinating George Bush Senior. But I strongly recommended. And I'm going to just have a quick gander through
You got to send it all through, man. Like,
I'll send it through. As I said, I found some absolute gems.
I love to Onyx as well for just like how raw those boys were. Like, fuck me.
The ultimate diss album aimed at NWA. Tim Dog did an album called Fuck Compton. Genius, mate. Pure genius.
That's funny because I've always wanted to do it. When I came back from England, I wanted to do an album called Fuck England, and I've got like the perfect samples for it as well. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe when we feel there's no career left,
you're going down that road. But yeah, then I got into some older stuff than that as well. Things like Slick Rick. There's a track by Slick Rick called King. Fucking absolutely fantastic. Trying to think what else have I got here? Fuck a War by Ghetto Boys. Masterpiece, complete and utter masterpiece. I'll send you a bunch of stuff after this. You can't play it anywhere near any respectable human being, but it's
the idea. Yeah.
And we saw Body Count live a few years back. Body Count came and played out here.
And that would have been awesome.
It was fucking awesome. It was they played at a very big venue, and it was it had a respectable amount of people in it. But if they had done a smaller club show or two, it would have been fucking incredible. But they were fantastic. And Ice-T is just fucking. He's like an OG fucking. He's like what you want a cool granddad to be, or like your cool dad or something. It's fantastic. But that sort of from there, I started listening to all old school Ice-T, Power, and Iceberg and OG. Brilliant. I love it.
Iceberg has got some brilliant stuff on it. Iceberg has got Pusher on it, doesn't it?
I think that's Power. I might be wrong though. I'm not sure.
I mean, either way, there's brilliant songs of all of them, but Pusher is such a cool tune. That's also on my playlist, so it comes up frequently. And then I'm a massive fan of the early Eric B. and Rakim stuff. There's a song called No Competition. I mean, like that was the one thing about the golden era of hip hop, where they weren't singing about gang stuff. They were basically, all of them were singing about how great they are at rapping.
Lyrics of Fury, Rakim.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Fucking amazing. But Lyrics of Fury, No Competition, No Omega as well. The song No Omega. Jesus Christ.
Actually, like the one I love the most, it came a bit after all that Busta Rhymes. Like, I know this isn't like some gangster rap, but that flow he threw down for Janet Jackson on what's it going to be, like that and the video is just, I still listen to that just going, how does a person do that? Like most of the stuff, like NWA shit, I can learn, and I'll like sort of sit there like when the right people are around, like trying to do the lyrics, and it's possible, but like Busta Rhymes cannot be done, like unless you're a fucking freak.
And also the NWA stuff as well. So, like Straight Outta Compton, obviously, we all heard that like forever ago, but it's still all there. It's like you hear that album now, and you could just sing along to the entire thing, like it's all just in your head. That's how fucking good it is.
Another one that I strongly recommend if you don't know it, an album called No One Can Do It Better by the DOC. You want to hear some fucking unbelievable flow? That dude is he is the fucking sensei. There's a song called Portrait of a Masterpiece, and then straight after there's one called The Grand Finale. The Grand Finale has everyone from NWA, and then right at the end the DOC comes in and he does a verse as well. Absolutely phenomenal. Like real drums. It kind of has the same feel as the Eazy-E solo album. Like the two hard motherfuckers with actual drums being played, but brilliant. But the DOC is one of the best rappers from that era. Very unsung outside of certain circles, but he is fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
I thought MC Ren was probably my favorite in NWA.
Mine too, without a doubt.
Just those lyrics for "She Swallowed It" Part 2 will just like live forever. Like that's the thing. Like it still blows me away that it was hard enough to release something like that in that day and age. The fact that it hasn't been taken down from every single streaming service and just like extinguished from the modern day like life just blows my mind. Like you got people fossicking around going, oh, his tattoo indicates that he hangs out with someone who you may think, and it's kind of like, hey, did you hear what MC Ren said about the preacher's daughter? And like she's
just because you reminded me now of NWA rappers, I'm not a big fan of Dre, but Dre and Ice Cube did a song together called Natural Born Killers. Which New Jack used to wear, the ECW wrestler. He always used to have it playing during his matches. You want to see like prime gangster rapping, not just flow, but just poetry in saying the most insane shit that you've ever heard in your entire life. Some of those lyrics are just nuts, absolutely nuts. I'm trying to find some of the choice stuff that I can repeat publicly.
Don't say it out loud.
Journey with me into the mind of a maniac, doomed to be a killer since I came out the nutsack. Fucking absolutely brilliant. All right, dudes, I need to jump. Thank you so much for this. We can probably have done this for 6 hours. A very good mate of mine has bought a house in Noosa, and he's moving there permanently. So he has already implored me to come. Yeah. And I was like, I've got some homies in Australia that I definitely need to come and see as well. So I will potentially in the next, I would say maybe 2 years, I may come around your neck of the woods as well.
Brilliant.
That is one of the nicest places in the world. It is glorious.
The house is fuck. I'm not someone who gets jealous of friends. I was very happy for him, but man.
Oh mate, you got no idea. Like if he's got a place there, don't leave things to the vagaries of time. Get there now. Like get there in the next 12 months. Like, let the kids go hungry, let the partner wonder where the hell you are. Like, let the country fall, let the fucking podcast kingdom crumble. Just get to that place and we'll meet you there, man. It's fucking awesome.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers, dude.
Take care. You just listened to a track called Under a Urinal Moon, the band, of course, unmistakably Werewolves, featuring my two guests this week. Thank you so much to Matt and Sam for their time. The album is Die For Us. It's available right now. You can buy it on Bandcamp. Pick yourself out a vinyl or a CD, buy yourself some of their t-shirts and let them know who sent you. But great dudes, some of my favorite people that I've met in this industry. And we spoke about this offline when they hit that 10 album milestone, which is, if the schedule continues, it's 5 years from now. I will fly out to Australia and we will be doing a 10-hour marathon to commemorate 10 albums. So you can hold me to account on that. We will definitely be doing it. But in the meantime, great having them on the show, as always. And I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation as much as I did recording it. Apologies again for that bit of rustling. I tried my very best using multiple different noise gates to see if I could get it to disappear, but I could not. And I would rather run the episode than leave the Legion disappointed for another week. Right now, my friends, if you spend your time on Reddit forums telling various people to write and complain to venues and to promoters, and magazines and whoever else you can think about bands whose opinion you disagree with or bands you don't like, then it's time for you to hit the bricks. Because this is my weekly news rant.
A roundabout for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
Alright, Legion, the first headline. Ingested have premiered a music video for the song Starve the Fire. It says here, Extreme Metalers Ingested have launched a music video for Starve the Fire, the track taken off their latest record, The Tide of Death and Fractured Dreams. Lots of buzz about this album all over the socials. I myself have listened to one track, I think on the news rant, which I thought was reasonable. But I am yet to be convinced. Let's see whether Starve the Fire can change that. Not bad. Normally, whenever I hear clean vocals like that in a deathcore song, I immediately go a rubbery one. But that breaks up the monotony of the song a little bit in a good way. I think the main riff is pretty decent. I think the production is cool. It's heavy. It's aggressive. Again, I'm not sure whether I'm going to be falling into the target demographic for Ingested at any point soon. This feels like more of a young man's game to me, but I don't hate it. That's probably about where I rest on Ingested. Next up, we've got Winterfylleth, who have delivered a brand new single. It says here, British atmospheric black metal brigade Winterfylleth have posted a brand new single entitled Upon the Shore. The latter will appear on the group's forthcoming studio album, The Imperious Horizon, due on September the 13th on Candlelight Records. I really, really liked that previous single that they put out, Dishonor Enthroned, I think it was called. It kind of felt to me like it was a step in a not entirely different direction, but just a little bit more grunt, a bit more aggression, a bit more, a bit more spice, as they say. I hope that this is the direction they will continue to take with future singles, but let's find out whether or not that is indeed the case. Lots to like about those first 2 minutes. I think let's start with probably the standout for me, and that's the production. I think that Winterfylleth have always needed to record their music in this way. To me, this when I compare it to previous Winterfylleth records that I've heard, this sounds much beefier. It's just a thicker, more well-rounded sound. The sound stage also seems to kind of allow a bit more space and a bit more breathing room for all the instruments. I think that's particularly true of Mark Deese's keyboards, which, kind of sit in the background and then come to the fore every so often at just the right moment to catch a bit of the spotlight before fucking off again, back into the rest of the wall of sound. I think Chris Norton's vocals sound great. I think Simon Lucas sounds superb on the drums. It is not the kind of return to the aggression of that previous single. It's actually much more of a throwback to earlier Winterfylleth, much more focused on atmosphere, but that's not a bad thing. If anything, this is definitely an album that feels to me, from the two singles that I've heard, it feels to me like the band are going all out, and they are very ambitious, and rightfully so. They've had a run, I think, of really good, very well-received shows, in very prolific spaces. That included Inferno, where I saw them earlier this year. They played a couple of shows with Emperor here in the UK. I don't know whether or not that extended to outside of the UK, but regardless, playing with Emperor, never a bad place to be if you're a band like this. I feel like the Imperius Horizon is potentially a record that could open a lot of doors for these former survivors of the cancel mob. And yes, you can look it up. If you head over to Reddit, there's all sorts of sobbing and wailing about Winterfylleth on there. Obviously nothing has really ever come of it, but there were all sorts of NSBM and other far-right accusations thrown at these guys for just reasons that are completely and utterly spurious, as most of these accusations tend to be. I don't know whether you guys saw, but Ecclese was announced as or they were added to the lineup for Fortress 2025. And people just went absolutely fucking ballistic, thinking, or, you know, saying that, you know, this is a terrible look in the face of the fact that they cancelled Old Tower. Old Tower apparently was due to be, I think, on this year's lineup. It turned out that, you know, they were involved in some suspicious activity, so they got yanked from the set. But, you know, at least worst of the worst band, according to these fucking basement dwellers. Yeah, you know, it was just the usual avalanche of sobbing and wailing. One nerd said, Fortress have basically guaranteed they won't get my money now. You know, you read that and you go, do you really think that Gary and Reaper give a fuck? They're going to be selling out that festival probably even more easily now that Ecclesia's on the lineup. They certainly don't give a shit about you and your little pink polo shirt wearing money or, you know, presence at the festival. But then, of course, not to be outdone by Fortress, the gang over in the US running Hell's Heroes, and of course we know Christian Larson of Necrosphere. He's one of the main dudes, if not the main dude that runs that festival. They announced Absu, and again, you know, the sobbing and the wailing and the gnashing of teeth was significant. One guy said, basically something to the effect of, Hell's Heroes have hereby communicated to members of the LGBTQ community that they're no longer safe. Which just, again, boggles my fucking mind. I mentioned earlier on in the podcast during the intro that I was at a secret Destroyer 666 show last weekend. Secret because due to people like the whalers that I mentioned earlier, and I think some of the experience that the promoters might have had trying to get Diocletian into the UK, you know, and shows being cancelled, you know, mostly because venues are pulling the plug on the bands. They released, I think, tickets for the show, and then the idea was you buy the ticket and they email you a couple of hours beforehand to say where the show is going to be held. This show was held in a very famous gay bar in the UK. And of course, the sight that met me upon entering the venue is exactly what you can expect. Destroyer 666 were in full flight. There were clansmen flanking either side of the stage, ready to throw out any persons of non-Aryan descent for daring to be there. And then there was a couple of people walking around with flashlights amongst the audience, looking for signs of pride flags or other LGBTQ contraband. That, of course, is a complete shit show, or a complete shit story. As a matter of fact, my fiance Paige, who was with me at the show, commented that this was one of the most chilled and one of the most diverse audiences she had ever seen. Nothing untoward was said. You know, nobody was hated upon. There were plenty of folks there from different persuasions of life, whether, you know, different races, different creeds, different cultures, religions, what have you. Everyone was just there to have a good time. And, you know, the staff of this particular establishment seemed to be having a great time too. So it reminded me once again that I have no idea how we allowed these people to infiltrate our scene. But I think the only way to deal with them is to treat them like you would any infantile simpleton, and that is to just ignore them. Let them have their little temper tantrum in the corner of the room. And when they're done, they can either choose to come to one of these shows, or they can choose to, you know, spend their welfare money elsewhere. One slight high point to this whole malarkey, and actually just I should say, the Destroyer 666 show was very good. They had Necro Ritual opening for them as well. Got to see Cheyenne on stage doing his thing. He was awesome. But I got introduced to the infamous KK Warslut. Shook hands, and before he'd heard my name, he says to me, "You that Necrosphere bloke, aren't you? I listened to your podcast." You can just imagine I was fucking beaming from ear to ear. All right, let's move on to another news headline. Serge Tankian has debuted a new track, my friends. Absolutely no way that we could possibly skip this. Serge Tankian is pleased to present a music video for his new single, Justice Will Shine On. The latter will appear on the upcoming Foundations EP, coming soon through Gibson Records. I have already committed us to listening to it by clicking on the headline, so here goes.
Childhood so far away, you can see the depth of laughter in his teared eyes disarray. Then he pours his heart thereafter, of soldiers taking the men away, leaving women and their children in the desert. You will pay. We are the children of all the survivors. Justice will shine on. We are the demons of all the deniers. Justice will shine on. Can you tell me, dear?
That is completely atrocious. No other way to describe it. I expected shit, and I received something, or I ended up hearing something that I felt was potentially even worse. So yeah, terrible, absolutely terrible. Whenever I see people get excited about this band potentially, or about System of a Down reforming and, you know, doing another album, I just question why. Why has anyone actually gone back to the first System of a Down album, steal this album, mesmerize, hypnotize? I'd say the only thing that they've done that's not uniformly terrible from start to finish is Toxicity. That's pretty terrible too, but at least there's passages that are listenable. But everything else, there is not a single vindicating song on those records. It is just complete bullshit. And as I said, I mean, maybe it's because people grew up with it during a certain period of their life, you know, where they were especially happy. You know, some folks, you know, are kind of connected to it because of the new metal thing. I am just not connected to it whatsoever. I fucking absolutely hate it. Years ago, I tried listening to the first System of a Down album again, and I very nearly tried to poke out one of my eardrums. It took me about 30 seconds, and I was just like, I cannot deal with this. All right, Misanthropy signed with Transcending Obscurity Records. The Chicago-based death metal formation Misanthropy are pleased to announce the signing of a new deal with Transcending Obscurity Records for the release of their third full-length effort dubbed The Ever-Crushing Weight of Stagnance. Additional details of the latter will be unveiled in the coming weeks. Now you can give a listen to the first track in preview, The All-Devouring. Don't believe that I've heard Misanthropy. But as I've said many times before on the news rant and elsewhere, Transcending Obscurity Records, always a label that piques my interest. They've been putting out some really, really good stuff. So let's hear what Misanthropy sounds like. bit avant-garde, a bit proggy. I think the main riff is interesting, but I don't know. There's not enough going on here to take this past third tier, in my opinion. The vocals sound a little bit generic, and I think again, there's been so many bands that have attempted this avant-garde or this discordant style of death metal, but they've just done it a lot better than Misanthropy are able to do here. I think it's still a record maybe worth checking out when it gets released. But as things stand right now, I was letting it run along because I thought something might come up that changes my mind. I was kind of waiting for that break or waiting for that drop, and it just never came. One thing that I will say, when it comes to Transcending Obscurity Records, the one band that I've been hugely impressed by, that they're about to put out now, and I say now, August the 2nd, this coming Friday, Carnophage out of Turkey. They've got an album called Matter of a Darker Nature. We've listened to a couple of those tracks on the news rant, and they were fucking mind-blowing. Far more mind-blowing than what we just heard. All right, Agnostic Front are working on new material. It is the follow-up, it reads here, to 2019's Get Loud. I didn't like that album very much. I think it had maybe one or two decent songs on, but again, that's kind of where we're at with Agnostic Front. They're more of a live band, I think, than they are a band to enjoy on record. I think there's a couple of great records that they've done, mostly the early stuff, a couple of things in later career, but the last couple have just not really cut the mustard, in my opinion. Mork have announced and detailed a new full-length. It says here on September the 20th, 2024, Black Metal Masters Mork will unleash their 7th long player, dubbed Civ, or Sive. I don't know how to pronounce it. Additional details in a first single called Utbrent can be checked out below. Love me some Mork. I thought that last record was superb. It was, of course, great having Thomas Eriksson on the podcast. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, then make sure that you go back and check it out. Kind of feel like it's high time that he and I had another chat. So maybe, given the timing of this and the fact that I can assume he's going to be at Inferno, I might try and do something face-to-face with him. Anyway, I'm going to shut up. Let's hear what Utbrent sounds like. Right, I'm going to pause it there because I'm curious to hear what comes next. I would say the song is pretty cool. Good riff, great vocal performance. It is ruined, in my opinion, by those drums. I don't know how or why the drums were directed as they were. As far as I know, Malignant, who plays drums for Mork, is still the drummer on this record. He's generally speaking, in my experience, a very capable drummer. He's always sounded good on every other Mork record, but something here just doesn't work. I mean, the drums sound demo grade, number one. Number two, they just don't sound very good. That opening kind of half blast sounds like somebody about 6 months into learning how to play extreme metal drums. Later on in the record, on the song, it gets a little better, but yeah, it's just the drumming here to me just it lacks power, it lacks impact, and it's just not meshing together with the rest of the song like I have expected in the past. A drummer would mesh with Mork's music, generally speaking. I mean, Dipet, the previous Mork record, I mean, that's a wash with just fucking great slamming, nasty black metal songs. This song has all the ingredients, but it's like, I don't know, trying to make a spaghetti bolognese with strips of cardboard. That's how I feel about it at the moment. Let's hear what the rest of it sounds like, because it's not. I'm not going to write this off. I still want to hear the rest of the record, but I'm not nearly as impressed by this as I have been in the past with Mork's new stuff. I'm afraid this one is going to have to get a cautious finger wag from me. So I think that's about the best rating I can give it. I want to hear what the rest of the record sounds like when it comes out, but that first single I kind of feel it's not on the same level as certainly anything off the last three Mork records. And it's not like I'm expecting them to repeat themselves over and over again. But, there's like a certain standard of quality in the performances that you expect from this band. And that's what I'm not getting here. I think, like I said, the vocals sound good. The riff sounded fine. The drumming just lets everything down. And there's just something about that song that's just not hanging together well for me. Maybe it's the fact that it's a little too hot outside. I've had some fucking wasting disease that I picked up last week when I was traveling for work. That might not be contributing to... or contributing in a positive way to my reception of the song either. But it's not doing it for me. Now on to hopefully a palate cleanser. Sadis have unleashed the Devil in Me lyric video in anticipation for their upcoming return to Europe for a string of shows. East Bay thrash metal legends Sadis have revealed a new lyric video for The Devil in Me from their latest album, The Shadow Inside. I mentioned it before, I think The Shadow Inside had not come out as late as it did last year. It would almost certainly have been in my top 30. I thought it was fucking fantastic. If you like thrash metal in the style of Testament, there is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be listening to this. And Sadis, of course, legends in their own right. So let's hear what The Devil in Me sounds like. Love it. Absolutely love it. And if you haven't heard it yet, make sure you check out the 2006 Sadus album, Out for Blood. I didn't get the easiest run of it on Metal Archive. There's a couple of the hoi polloi that gave it a pretty poor review, but I just think it's a superb record. Loved it from the second I first heard it. All right, moving on. Spectral Wound has posted a new track. It says here, in the wake of their new album release, Songs of Blood and Mire, black metal representatives Spectral Wound offer in listening the second extract titled The Horn Marauding. Now that is much, much more like it. I thought that aristocratic, suicidal black metal single that they released was good. I think this stomps a mud hole through that and walks it dry. Much nastier, much more severe. And then they almost kind of take this left turn where I feel like they go for the Uada type vibe, but they just do it without sounding like complete pansies, because unfortunately Uada, you know, I know there's we've got various friends in common. I cannot wrap my head around their music. I have tried over and over and over again to like it. I just don't. Their music lacks the impact that I require from black metal. I would call their music pansy black metal. This most definitely isn't, but like I said, it does have there's similar tropes that get deployed. You know, the melodies, the you know, that kind of mid-tempo breakdown. There's just something about it that reminds me of Uada, but done in a way that I can actually get on board with. So yeah, both thumbs up for them so far. Great job from those gentlemen. Definitely looking forward to hearing the whole record. Yeah, like I said, definitely a song that justifies some of the excitement around Spectral Wound more so than the previous one did, I think. I mentioned in the intro that I'd watched Longlegs, as I know many of you have done, and certainly many others want to. So I thought I would just share a couple of thoughts about that particular movie. I would suggest that if you haven't seen it yet, you temper your expectations, because I don't think it's bad. I think in terms of atmosphere, it's a solid 9.5 out of 10 movie. In terms of actual plot, characterization, storyline, there's some problems there, in my opinion. I think it starts to me with the fact that the main character, Lee Harker, played by Micah Monroe, I think she's presented almost from the off as someone who's hopelessly incompetent at her job. And there's nothing vindicating about it either. She's socially extremely awkward. She's not a particularly great detective. There's this very lazy plot device that they use, suggesting that she's half psychic, which they literally use in the literal sense. And that's supposedly the edge that she brings to the game. But I just personally think if you were to put that character in real life, I'm not sure that she would actually possibly even make it through from my understanding, very lax tests to get into the FBI. But if she were, I'm not sure she'd be in a job for very long. She's just not a competent person, and that is something that permeates throughout the entire film. Blair Underwood's acting, dire. I know a lot of people have said that the acting is a revelation. He's great. I think it's atrocious. And so too, Conan Shipka of Mad Men fame. She tries to do this kind of unhinged, psychotic, mental patient, but just ends up sounding like she's trying to rip off a couple of clips that she saw out of The Exorcist 3. So, as I said, watch the movie. I would strongly recommend that you do. If for nothing else, then the masterclass in building tension and in building that atmosphere. I think they do that really, really well. But these comparisons to Silence of the Lambs and Zodiac, I mean, people need to fucking get a grip. Those two movies are so vastly superior to Longlegs, it's not even worth discussing in detail the reasons why. If I did, I would just start sounding like I'm being nasty. All right, let's move on to another song. Swartelder are launching the Forgiving Isolation track. It says here, black metal operatives Swartelder are premiering The Forgiving Isolation, the second and final single from their soon-to-be-released third studio record, Trenches. Looks like it's going to be released on Soul Cellar Records. Don't believe I'm actually very familiar with Swartelder, so let's hear what this sounds like. This is a weird song. I keep wanting to dislike it, and then I keep kind of making up my mind and going, yeah, this sucks. And then as soon as I'm about to hit that pause button, say something horrible, something comes up that makes me go, okay, wait, hang on. It sounds like it might be going somewhere. There's a lot of talent in this band. I was just taking a quick gander on Metal Archives while we were listening to that. They've got Duets Admiral as their vocals. Duets Admiral, of course, no stranger to the game. He's the vocalist in Norgevel, Natverd, The Horde of Hell, Doodsvanger, so, I mean, elite of the elite in terms of vocals. Then you also have Spectre on the drums. Spectre is best known for his drum work in Goldsveard. And then you also have playing the guitar, and I would assume writing the lion's share of the music, you've got Chalv, better known to his parents as Andre Quebec. And he is in A Rise and a Blaze, From the Vast Land, and Beyond the Moon. He was also in 1349. He was in Pantheon Eye and Den Succult. So, but yeah, so, I mean, tons of talent should potentially equate to something that's more immediately noteworthy. But I don't know, maybe this is just one of those songs that you need to spend some time listening to and, you know, properly wrapping your head around. I'm confused by it. Which is, I'm not having a brain fart or anything. I can't make up my mind whether I think this sucks or whether I think this has got potential or whether I think this actually could be quite good. Let's give it another 90 seconds. I'll tell you what it was. I think it was that the major chords early on in the song that threw me. I've made my feelings clear on major chords in black metal. They have no place. They are the preserve of the poser. But, I mean, these guys aren't posers. So that must just have been a blip, and we can forgive them for that, because the rest of the song's actually not bad. I'm going to put this on the watch list. This doesn't get a top notch, doesn't get a thumbs up, but it gets put on the watch list. It might be something that, when you listen to the whole album, it all kind of makes sense. I mean, there's gonna have to be some hard work done for the use of major chords to make sense in black metal, but you know, we'll see. All right, Butcher Babies split with their singer. The entire fucking nerdery on Instagram cry out in anguish. They're not going to be able to get their usual 2-for-1 deal when they go and look at women and pretend that they're going to see a metal band. The band None have disbanded again. Absolutely tragic. Body Count have premiered a new song called Fuck What You Heard. I've listened to that. It's nothing. It's no great shakes. What I did want to hear, and I want us to get to it, so I'm just going to keep on skimming along until I find it, is that new Trelldom single. Now, that previous Trelldom track that they released, it was an interesting one. It was not what I was expecting from them. It wasn't a bad song, but I just, you know, Trelldom comes with certain expectations, and, you know, particularly with a record like Till Minna, which was, to me, one of the most perfect black metal albums ever written. You know, I wanted something a bit more ferocious than what they ended up giving me. What they ended up giving me was something that sounded like Goldsveard. It didn't sound like Trelldom. So I am hoping, beyond hope, that Exit Existence, the new single by Trelldom, is going to prove to us that the single they released was simply something to throw us off the scent a little. That said, let's find out. I'm afraid I cannot abide by the use of saxophones in black metal. Also, that is not a black metal song, and it doesn't sound to me like a Trelldom song either. I mean, I could see that fitting onto a Galsweird record. I would still not like the saxophones, but I could see it fitting onto a Galsweird record. It's just not. I knew something was amiss the second that I clicked through to YouTube and I saw that the first comment was, "I'm just glad Gal is back making music." Then I knew we're going to be dealing with something that is substandard at best. If I don't think that Gal listens to the podcast, but if he does, he can go back. Probably 1 in every 3 episodes I'm singing his praises as a vocalist, as a songwriter, as a frontman. So it's not like I'm hating on the dude here. That is not my tempo, without a doubt. It's not what I expect from him. No matter how experimental he wants to be, I just don't like it. I'd love to hear what you guys think, but I would be lying to you if I sat here saying, actually, frankly, try to pick anything in there to salvage. I kind of feel like this is the living embodiment of the phrase "to shit the bed." A lot of excitement about a new Trelldom record. That is not an EP, or that is not a single, I should say. Sorry, that's gonna inspire the base to get even more excited than they were. All right, let's have a gander at the Democrats' Guide to Rock Music. Michael Ackerfeld and Opeth's next studio album. We've been working on some stuff. Metallica shares "If Darkness Had a Sun" and "Welcome Home Sanitarium" pro shot videos from Warsaw stop of M72 tour. Sebastian Bach really enjoyed being on Gilmore Girls. Slash Penn's emotional message to deceased stepdaughter, "My heart is permanently fractured." All That Remains singer Phil Labonte, "Without Korn, I don't think you'd get deathcore bands that you have today. Therein lies the tragedy. Korn, had they somehow not started playing music, we may have been relieved of most of the deathcore trash that we've ended up having to listen to in the last 2 decades. Lamb of God frontman Randy Blythe's second book gets an official title and release date. This one is in crayon too, apparently. I'm only kidding, but not a book I'm going to be spending any time reading. Suicidal tendencies, Mike Moyer. Now people just don't want to communicate, they just want confirmation. I agree. And then we've got, what else? There's fucking nothing going on here that's of any interest. Just more bollocks about Carla leaving Butcher Babies. Shouldn't it be called Butcher Baby now? It's not exactly as though there's 2 there, unless they're referring to the dudes in the band as babies, which would make me dislike the band even more. Let's see what's on Metal Injection. There was a huge amount of stroking of the pelvic areas because Gojira was playing at the Paris Olympics opening ceremony. Got to say, I don't like Gojira. And I personally think the Olympics suck. And I think that the Olympics opening ceremony in the main was fucking awful. But I did watch a clip from this performance, and it was pretty impressive. Like, quite Rammstein-esque, but very impressive all the same. And kudos to them, and when I say them, I mean Gojira, for not putting out for not doing a performance of like an overly mellow song. They went, pretty hell for leather by non-metal standards with the show that they put on. Let's watch this little clip. Take that back. Let's not watch that fucking atrocious version of the clip. Surely there must be something that's a little bit easier on the eye, or certainly easier on the ear here. Let's take a gander at this one. No, I take that back as well. Every single fucking thing here seems to be recorded on somebody's cell phone, and very badly so too. All right, fuck that. We'll just skip it. But either way, if you saw the performance, you'll understand what I mean. They gave a good account of themselves. They represented the metal scene well, I think, in spite of the fact that I can't stand them, and I would happily have run up behind Joseph and pushed him off that railing that he was singing from. Also, I wonder whether they questioned how much pollution, how much carbon was being released by that event, because it looked to me like it would have gobbled up their entire year's allowance that the WEF have given them. Mastodon tear through Leviathan in full live. I tell you something, if you want to see a fucking badass video, go check out, I think it's the channel's called Drumeo. They get world famous drummers to try and learn a really difficult song in a very short space of time. And they got Eloy Casagrande, formerly of Sepultura, now of Slipknot fame, to do Blood and Thunder by Mastodon, and he learnt it in 38 minutes and did a fucking hell of a take. Unbelievable. The other thing that video reminded me of, beside the fact that, you know, Eloy Casagrande is a phenomenal drummer and is clearly auditioning for other bands, given that no drummer's tenure at Slipknot is guaranteed for life. It's not a job for life. But aside from reminding me that he's a great drummer, it also reminded me what a fucking cool song Blood and Thunder is. God damn. Actually made me want to go back and listen to Leviathan, which I think I will be doing straight after I've recorded this. And I'll tell you something, my friends, there's not a huge amount of anything else that is looking interesting. Let's wrap up on actually Mastodon related news. It says, yeah, Mastodon's Brand Daylor, we've just been working hard making 2 different projects. No double albums, though, they say. Are you ready for 2 brand new Mastodon projects? Because they're coming, and let me tell you, they're a big secret. At least that's what Mastodon drummer Brand Daylor said in a recent interview with Loudwire. While remaining super secretive, Daylor noted that Mastodon has lots of music in the works right now, and that the 2 projects are not a double album. You also really got to wonder if this has anything to do with a new configuration of Crack the Sky album that's on the horizon. The band commented on that a couple of months ago, apparently. Regardless of what they end up doing, I just truly hope they make up for the fact that Hushed and Grim was one of the most atrocious, one of the most true examples of a band really shitting the bed, jumping the shark, creatively speaking, that I've ever heard in my life. I could deal with Empire or Emperor of Sand. I thought Once More Around the Sun was good. I thought The Hunter was magnificent. Crack the Sky was great. Blood Mountain, fucking phenomenal. Leviathan, awesome. Remission, awesome. Hushed and Grim is the hemorrhoid on an otherwise phenomenal discography. Folks, I picked up a case of the COVIDs, and no amount of Baby Billy's healing elixir was able to help me out. I came down with something last week, Tuesday, when I landed at the airport in Prague, and it just got worse and worse and worse. I had a bunch of meetings I needed to lead, so I needed to kind of try and over-medicate myself just to get through them. Finally got home and just rested for most of the weekend. But yeah, if I'm sounding a little worse for wear or a little foggy with some of my comments, that is why. Be that as it may, I hope you guys have enjoyed another installment of the News Rant. I am done for this week. That does it for another episode of Into the Necrosphere Legion. I will love and leave you with a song by a little-known Matt Wilcock project called Belligerent Intent. I say little known, probably lesser known. Those who knew, they knew. But they put out a record back in 2016 or 2015, I think, called The Crucifier. Absolutely phenomenal, and such a shame that this band didn't stay together, because musically I thought they absolutely killed it. So I'm going to finish off with a track by them. I do want to say thank you very much to Matt and Sam for their time. I want to say thank you very much to every single member of the Legion for your time, for your support. Thanks to everybody who checked in to see whether I was okay last week. Yeah, I will be back again next week. Guest will be Robin Harris of Worm Witch. Hopefully this fucking wasting disease will be a thing of the past and I'll be a little sharper. But in the meantime, my friends, whatever it is that you're doing, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next week.